Hello, everyone. As per usual, April is a sort of a reminiscent month, as I mentioned also last year with Gone Girl, which means, a chance of giving a bit of a cleanup to some of our older stuff that we repute maybe in need of a do-over. And in this case, I don't know how early the movie in question we're doing today actually, has been, but it's technically one of the older commentary, which I wasn't even present in technically originally, so let's try to clean this up. I'm talking about 2002's M.Night Shyamalan movie, Signs,
Yep.
starring Mel Gibson, everyone's favorite actor, and Joaquin Phoenix, among others.
So
Um,
we have Santa Claus and the Joker.
I mean, sure. Um, I guess I can mention more as the movie goes on, but to mention a bit of irony that I noticed when a reviewer that I was watching actually pointed out, um, this is technically a movie that follows the idea of witnessing an alien invasion from the point of view not of a bigger outlet or someone who stumbles into a big city like say World of Worlds, for example, but instead from the outskirts of a farmer which tries to give an explanation to the famous myth of the crop circles, and the idea of what an alien invasion would look like from such an external point of view. Funny enough, one of the earlier concepts from Alien 3 that was proposed at Fox was the idea of a setting similar to this, where the xenomorphs try to stalk a house by hiding in the corn and having like a potential view of them moving forward like that. With the executives of Fox basically saying to the person in question that nobody wants to see a movie like that. And regardless of the polarity that this movie actually has in a lot of its plot element, it still did a lot of money. Sure, M. Night Shyamalan's name probably was a factor into it, but it's also the concept had an inherent vibe alone. So there's a bit
Yeah.
of irony there. All right, not being too much around the bush. And the good news, this is one of the movies that M. Night Shyamalan was doing while working for Touchstone in Buena Vista, meaning that this is on Disney Plus. So once again, picture what you're about to see as a world in Kingdom Hearts. Start before the,
Genius.
also, just for reference, we brought Jay also for the ride because why not? Um,
Turns out SCWRM couldn't pay Deji's fines for the next movie, so they put me in as his body double.
of course.
Wait, did you say Joaquin Phoenix was in this movie?
You'll see,
Yes.
Jay. Start
Oh boy.
before the Touchstone logo. It should be a small black screen, but immediately it should start with that. In three, two, one, click.
Okay, there's a thing
Joaquin
you need
Phoenix.
to understand, Jay. There was a time when M. Night Shyamalan was considered the next Steven Spielberg. I'm not even exaggerating. That was literally what
No,
some
no.
of the magazines and papers were
Time
calling
magazine
him.
specifically.
So it made sense that he could get some of the biggest actors of the time because everyone wanted to work with him back then.
Let's put it this way,
Fair enough. I was born in '96, so by that point in time, he had completely lost his luster.
yeah, Sixth Sense is actually one of those rare cases of a movie that was acclaimed as a masterpiece right from the beginning. It didn't need time for people to see it. And after Unbreakable, which was also successful, at this point he was like at the peak of his critical appraisal. So he had complete creative control of his work, and the result is this movie. It is important to remember that this was also a very different time in filmmaking where
Alright,
it was
this-
much more gone.
Alright, this movie also has one of the Culkin brothers in it.
Also, to answer
Um,
Jay, Joaquin Phoenix is actually both in this and in his next movie, The Village.
M. Night Shyamalan's career has one of the most interesting trajectories ever. Like, he was riding high with Sixth Sense, Unbreakable. Believe it or not, while Signs nowadays is a lot more scrutinized, it was also loved. No.
Yeah.
His career came to a sudden crash with The Village, which was the first time people went, huh, you know what? This sucks. And apparently he was so salty about it that when Disney dared scrutinize the plot of his next movie, Lady in the Water, he went, well, screw you guys, and went to Warner Brothers, who then dropped him after that movie because Lady in the Water sucked. So he went
The,
to
the,
Twitter.
movie,
I forgot he did Lady in the Water.
Anyway, budget 72 million, recouping for 80.2. Release also, it was also a summer release in the early 2000, which normally would have been box office poison. Also, just to mention, I did not see this movie in theater, but it was in a batch. Basically, to give a bit of a small history, because again, this opening is just for Mel Gibson to be Mel Gibson, thankfully with less of his weird shit.
His character is literally an Episcopal priest.
Although he's having a crisis of faith, as the movie will showcase. But in the early 2000s, while I wasn't still technically connected to with the internet, my family did not have a modem yet at that point. In 2002-3, when this came out, my father actually managed to snuggle in an external hard drive which was full of pirated movies, and this was in it.
Wow.
Just for reference, the same hard drive contained a copy of X2 with the Chinese subtitles. So basically, I saw this when I was 13, roughly. And while these days it doesn't do it anymore, this movie genuinely scared me back then, actually. Mostly helped by the score by James Newton Howard, which is very haunting, but a lot of the tension, as you will see later, I think it's appropriate. Again, much less a couple of plot elements, but I'll have to talk about when they show up, because I know already it's gonna be painful.
Oh yeah.
Wait, I thought we put on signs. This looks like Children of the Corn.
I actually went to see this movie in theaters because I loved Sixth Sense and I loved Unbreak. I still love those two movies, in fact.
Oh, so you got to see M. Night Shyamalan's career careen in real time.
Jova, I followed this man's career
Okay.
much for almost of its entirety. I mean, the only movies I haven't properly watched are the two movies he made before The Sixth Sense.
Okay, I'm curious. And again, no, that's not Macaulay Culkin, that's Rory Culkin, believe it or not.
Well, that's because it's 2002 movie.
Although his acting is quite similar to a lot of Culkin performances, I'll have to say, but I'll get to it later. Go on.
So Pedro, what did the 15-year-old you make of this movie?
I found it mostly boring, and by the time we get to the climax, for reasons that I will not spoil just yet, I was laughing madly.
So let me get this straight.
You'll see why.
So you were ahead of the curve when it came to how people perceive Shyamalan.
It's more so because, okay, let me put it this way. When I was a kid, I watched a lot of alien invasion movies on TV, like a lot of old ones, like from the 50s, 60s, and onwards, right? So it's not like I'm unfamiliar with these kinds of movies, right? And I like to explain earlier, I can understand what Shyamalan was trying to do with this movie.
And
for example, a lot of people like to say something similar. Happening is a zombie movie, but without the zombies. I personally find that analogy a bit
like Taken's a Christmas movie.
Flawed,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, and yes, crop circle thingies.
Again, this was around the time, if I remember correctly, when it was kind of, still a bit hot to talk about it. So using that as giving an explanation for an invasion, I guess, was, a good vehicle for sci-fi stories. Also, this was the little girl played by Abigail Breslin, and this was literally her first role. Both her and the other child actor are still doing movies to this very day.
Rory Culkin.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Interesting that Rory Culkin still goes on. Well, I think Macaulay more or less retired from it.
Well, their careers went in different directions, Jova.
It's really ironic because Macaulay Culkin is arguably still the best well-known of the Culkin brothers, yet he arguably had the shortest career of them.
Well, Macaulay Culkin went through the typical thing that a lot of times happens to child
Oh,
actors.
that dog definitely stepped through his own piss.
Oops.
You were saying, Pedro?
The usual thing where, he was exposed to a lot of stuff that children are usually exposed to. As a result, he eventually got involved with less savory things, and, he kind of went off the deep end a bit. The typical thing that usually happens to child actors who are not properly taken care of.
Officer Caroline is played by Cherry Jones. Let me see.
Mr. Gibson, don't you have a mop or bucket of mop you can use?
So what's the sheriff doing here?
Investigating the crops circle thingies, I
And
think.
she's also, as the movie will showcase more and more, she's also an acquaintance of, Mel Gibson's character. So,
To be fair, he is talking with the police kid. Just take him off the grill. Dad's gonna burn these and leaves them on the grill.
I'll follow up on the question you asked me, Jova, in a few minutes because I still want to give it a few more minutes before I talk about one of my main problems with this movie.
Fair enough. I guess I'll ask you another question, though. Like, okay, so you found this movie to be silly, though. Did you chalk it up to this is just a bump in the road at the time?
Bump in the road, yes. I mean, my theory at the time was, okay, fine. So maybe he got a bit too overconfident and hopefully he'll be able to come back in the next movie. But again, we'll talk. Maybe one day when we really do The Village, we can talk about that.
Okay, these days the green screen is more noticeable, unfortunately, but I can imagine back then it wasn't as much.
Is this? I'm actually gonna confess. I don't. Is this a green screen?
The dog ear looked like it was overimposed over the child model.
I'll admit, I could not tell of that being green screen. Like, if it is green screen, it's very well
I
hidden.
didn't notice it. Yeah,
Probably
What do you
the-
need to do that, though?
Well, I guess maybe the dog was, despite trained, might have been too dangerous to be close to the kids. I don't know.
Granted, it might just be the camera work making it
Also,
look green screen when it
remember, Dreams, this is the same director that instead of actually shooting on location on a good location, decided to build an entire condominium for Lady in the Water, even if it was the less logical and more costly, choice. So you probably should expect everything.
Oh, Jay, in case you're one of the few people who doesn't know, after Lady in the Water in the Village, yeah, he made also The Happening, ergo one of the greatest comedies not categorized as a comedy, wrote for Devil, a god-awful take on, well, the devil.
Although Devil is also really funny, I will say that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And
Oh, yes.
The Last Airbender.
Yes. Last Airbender was arguably where his fall from grace plateaued in one of the most hated movies of all kind.
Imagine what's worse than regular Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson is a priest.
And on horse tranquilizers, it seems.
After Earth, After Earth, I won't pin on Shyamalan too much.
Well, I'll say this, After Earth may not have been entirely his fault, but it sure didn't help his career. The weird thing is that believe it or not, after Earth, it seemed like he was about to make a rise back to prominence since he had...
Oh,
yeah.
Remember,
it
it attacked the children, so... Oh, was it Gomorrah and you were Atreyu?
But why would one of their sweet dogs want to kill them?
Oh, yeah, it's important. The child has asthma, and much like with the Goonies, I don't know if it's Shyamalan or the executive, a combination of them. Much like with the Goonies, the movie seems to mistake the idea that the inhaler, is there to be a stress reliever rather than, being an actual medication against asthma.
Yeah.
Me and Shira complained enough about it during the Goonies generations of this.
All right,
It's,
playing devil's advocate, I'm going to regret that later. He was attacked in a scenario that would have him far too active for a normal person to be.
Maybe I get what you mean, Jay, but I get the idea you're giving a bit too credit to the scene.
Maybe you can help me. Like, I never understood. Like this thing about the dog attacking them feels like it comes out of nowhere. Like,
remember the crop circle? If I remember correctly, the aliens do have like a poison gas that they use, and I get the idea that scrambled the dog's brain.
Oh, spoilers, Tio!
Jova, this is a 2002 movie, 22 years old.
But what if it's Jay's first time seeing it?
It technically is, but by saying that it means nothing.
I
not to
mean,
mention the aliens were in the marketing, so
It's the same kind of thing as Soylent Green.
believe it or not, Jay, despite the
Haven't
fact
seen
that,
it, knows what's going on.
believe it or not, Jay, the fact that you know aliens are a thing does not spoil what this movie's twist is for you.
oh sure,
That's funny.
Also, Jay, small trivia. It is unrelated small trivia since you mentioned it. Oh, Jesus. My country, the Soylent Green is actually called 2022 The Survivors.
Oh my.
Hell.
Okay, yeah. I wonder if the reason this movie got praised was more so people still thinking, nah. The guy who made Unbreakable and Sixth Sense can't be making Drek. And okay, to be fair to Signs is by no means Shyamalan's worst work or even all that bad. But my god, in hindsight, it really does have a few of the characteristics of M. Night Shyamalan stinkers.
I wouldn't really say on. I was pondering if the pace maybe potentially was too slow, but this is not really different from what Shyamalan did in Unbreakable, for example. Not really. Even the abundance of blue in the actual camera shot is actually very similar to that.
My first issue is, like Tio mentioned, Mel Gibson's acting in this. Now, okay, say what you will about the man.
Said that.
There is a no. You said on tranquilizers, but I digress. Though,
Actually, it was me who said that. Actually,
sorry,
the tranquilizers bit.
The point is that it was mentioned. Go on.
Say what you will about the man. There is a lot to be said, but as we saw with Fat Man, he can act pretty damn well all the same. So, what the hell is this performance?
Have you ever seen Braveheart, Jova?
No, I have not.
It's the movie in which he stars as William Wallace, and yes, he can act potentially to a fault.
Remember, Jova, there's that joke in the South Park Imagination Land trilogy where they make fun of Shyamalan's twist, and they make fun of Michael Bay's reliance on special effects, and then they have a Mel Gibson as well, where he actually gives a good idea how to catch a terrorist, and he was like, "Say what you want about Mel Gibson, but the son of a bitch no story structure. Let's go."
Isn't that a man of God?
Sorry, Jay?
Sorry?
Oh, yeah. Having the man of God try and curse. No, just act like an Do you not know what an animal sounds like?
I don't know. But yeah, sure. I'll follow what Jova just said on. I think by this point it's been you guys seen a bit enough to understand where I'm coming from with this. Okay, this is something that I'm going to talk about that has always been a thing in Shyamalan's movies, like Teo was just explaining. The fact that the characters are usually very, how should I put it, stoic. You know, this was a thing in Sixth Sense. This was also a thing in Unbreakable. And while I do think that it
Wow,
works,
he actually did curse.
Go on, Pedro.
Which is interesting because this is a Disney movie, but yeah. Oh, he even said it. I cursed. Yeah, but yeah. So yeah, if you go back to looking at Bruce Willis's performances in both Unbreakable and Sixth Sense, he was also very stoic, especially in Unbreakable. And while I thought it did work in context of the stories that the Shyamalan was telling in those movies in particular. For reasons that I will not say because just not to spoil Jay on anything. I don't really get the same justification from this movie in particular. All of the characters in this movie suffer from the same thing that most of Shyamalan's movies suffer, where the characters are very stoic, very lifeless, and always talk in this incredibly boring monotone, and for no real reason. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not asking for the movie to be Tarantino-esque and have the characters with a lot of quippicisms. But at the same time, I feel like this is the other extreme, where it's a common problem in Shyamalan's movies that I have is the fact that the characters seem very soul-dead, barely awake human beings.
And you know, the fact that, that's his laboratory.
That's his lab, but...
It's a Disney movie.
Also, you were mentioning about cursing, Pedro. Remember, this is their Touchstone brand, so they're allowed to do more mature stuff, ideally.
Yeah, true. But no, it's more so the fact it applies to all the characters in this movie, and most of the characters in his other movies. That Shyamalan, for whatever reason, always directs his actors to act super stoic and very monotone in their delivery. Now, maybe this is how, don't get me wrong. There are movies where you can have this kind of style if it fits what you're going for. The problem is, in practically every one of Shyamalan's movies, it feels like the entire world is populated by people like this. And, okay, maybe this is how Shyamalan sees the world. Who knows, right? but I'm sorry, I don't I don't really find this to be an accurate depiction of
what
human
was his-
condition. Of
what
the
was
human
his
condition.
name?
Oh, and this
this camera shot.
this camera work, yeah. Why
Yeah,
is it like
Shyamalan-
this?
Yeah, Shyamalan
mhm.
likes to do the whole panning shot.
Usually,
Apparently-
that kind of shot is reserved to build a quite a type of scare. Usually, so it's a bit weird. when
Apparently,
you use it.
Shyamalan is trying to compete against Tommy Wiseau for camera shots.
Also, I forgot his name. God, who
Which
was
one?
the actor? The actor who played the protagonist of leading the main lead in the water. The Rhino from Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man.
God, I
2.
know his name too. Why am I drawing a blank
Paul
on that?
Giamatti.
Paul
Paul
Giamatti.
Giamatti,
Yeah.
there you go. I think Paul Giamatti was going through the other direction in that movie, Pedro. I don't know about you.
Oh no,
Oh,
no.
well, that's why I said most of them too. I didn't say all of them.
I
Okay.
think I can simplify it to the fact that M.Night Shyamalan, and again, mind you, maybe this was always a thing with him, it's just that, Sixth Sense and Unbreakable matched his style, but starting with Signs, it felt like Shyamalan would tend to direct people the wrong way, or at the very least, made them act opposite
yes.
their talents. Like, I mean, Mel Gibson here feels way too subdued. Paul Giamatti, and if I recall correctly, Paul Giamatti was mostly more of a comedian actor at the time, so maybe that was the problem. But all the same, Paul Giamatti in Lady in the Water didn't seem like he knew what he was doing. And, Mark Wahlberg in The Happening. Good lord.
Oh, excuse me, Joe. Mark Wahlberg's performance in The Happening is
Oscar-worthy.
a brilliant comedic performance.
And
Also,
yet,
I would say that Joaquin Phoenix actually is relatively fine in this movie when it comes to his acting and expression.
I'm talking mainly about like the main leads and stuff.
No,
but fair enough.
I get it because for example, the officer here also tends to be a bit deadpan as well. Also, the child characters as well. So you may give the idea that everyone in the movie acts, I guess, because being in this kind of isolated location, this movie doesn't have a bigger cast that juggles throughout. We may see a couple more people in a flashback or two, but it's mostly revolving around this group. So there is that.
The
But
weird part is that,
no.
how about this, Dale? Let me give you an example. His most recent movie, is it called The Cabin?
Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
Wait, no,
Cabin in the Woods was
no. That's the Josh Whedon movie you're thinking of. I think it's Knock
That's
at the
the
Cabin.
horror movie. Okay,
Knock at the Cabin. That's
Cabin.
it. Knock at the Cabin. In Knock at the Cabin, the acting in that movie is still following the more subdued Shyamalan style, but the characters have they have more life in them. So that movie doesn't have this problem.
I mean, one of the actors is Batista, so yeah.
I mean, not even just Batista does. I will argue all of the actors in that movie handle things well, especially when you think of the script that was given to them. Compared to something like in The Village, where everybody feels like they've got their souls taken out by Shang Tsung.
I feel like Shyamalan is
Although-
currently on this weird pattern where nowadays he is constantly on the verge of falling from grace, but every now and again he makes a decent movie that's enough for people to go, oh, you know what? Maybe we can give him a chance. Lather, rinse, repeat.
Yes, Jay?
Jay?
Oh, I was going to bring up a little bit earlier. She goes on about not appreciating sarcasm, but a minute ago brings up a female Scandinavian Olympian who might or might not have done this whole manner. She's the kind of person who can't dish what she takes out, and that's not really that good of a writing.
So yeah,
Also,
aliens are
these,
doing their usual thing across the
The crop
world.
circle are appearing throughout the entire world, yeah.
Also, scenes like this makes it is kind of at least funny to me because of wow, a lot of American TV channels and TVs themselves were really behind us here in the UK. We've had widescreen for years before this. What's wrong with you guys?
Granted, Dwibs, they're a very rural part, so I'm pretty sure widescreen TVs were a thing here by that time too. It's just that this family is
Like I
kind of
told you,
living out in the
James,
country.
the world caught on, it will stayed at their own pace. Like I said, for my country, we had to wait until roughly the 2010s to have, a consistent way to have flat screens and HD widescreen stuff.
Yeah, basically.
Go on, Pedro.
See, the thing is, okay, allow me to be a bit more constructive. Like, let's compare Culkin's performance in this movie compared to Haley Joel Osment's performance in The Sixth Sense, real quick, because in that movie also has the same kind of subdued acting style to an extent, especially from Bruce Willis himself, right? And Haley Joel Osment is also quite on the stoic side compared to something like what you hear from him from Kingdom Hearts, right? But
Yeah, let's see.
yes, Jay.
No, I was just like Haley Joel Osment. Oh, Sora, of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sora. His big debut was in The Sixth Sense. He got nominated for an Oscar for that performance. He delivers a brilliant performance even at age 10. But yeah, when you take a look at Josman's performance in that movie, despite the more subdued nature, there's a lot of strong subtle delivery from him, especially when in the iconic "I See Dead People" scene, and of course his great facial expressions that he makes during that movie, right? Whereas Culkin in this movie is constantly with the exact same tone, with the exact same boring-looking face, and never really changes.
Granted, maybe
there
that
is
might be a
there-
result of the direction.
There are also technically stories on for either of those things, but the quality of which obviously is judged differently because A. Johnson's character, has this particular gift, which kind of explains his type of, tone of voice and performance because supposed to be scared, and tense all the time. While these children are basically what Hollywood thinks, children reflecting over trauma or coping for loss of a parent actually means.
Okay. Part of me would chalk that up to Hollywood, but we also got to remember who the director of this movie is, too.
Yeah, because the village is the same thing. In the village, everybody's super sold out as well. So, to a lesser extent, there are some characters in Lady in the Water that are also.
Hey,
like that,
Liz,
but-
we're in Wakefield.
Oh, great! England is attacked too. Great.
Wakefield, interesting. Well, okay. To be fair, at least Shyamalan knows that Britain is more than just London.
Oh, by the way,
yeah.
Glib, speaking of London, in regards to that widescreen TV here, actually over in the United States, the first widescreen TV was sold in 1993, so technically we were ahead of you guys with the widescreen
Well, I was
TV.
more so, I was more so talking about programs made in that format.
Maybe what happened is that this movie is actually a prequel to the Resistance series, and people in England didn't think of using certain things against the aliens, if you know what I mean. But
He gave up the faith.
oh, here's another Shyamalan trademark: these static shots,
Back to back.
where we see back-to-back static shots of two actors.
Hey, it's like I'm watching an unfunny episode of The Office.
Well, to be fair, there are no zoom in, zoom out. So.
Okay, it's like I'm watching an old prototype unfunny version of The Office.
The idea behind this is that they're trying to reflect what the character is actually seeing, So back to back, we see what Mel Gibson is seeing and what the pharmacist, is seeing. The thing is that usually, again, speaking as someone who knows jack shit about, cinematography.
Also, excuse me, miss, but even if he was still a reverend, can you just wait until you're actually in the church? He just wants to get his medication.
Yeah.
Also, this guy. Let me check who he's played by.
It'd be like if I went to Pedro's restaurant and asked him, "Could you please give me some dating advice?"
I think
Well,
this is.
I think a better analogy would be you go to my house and ask me to serve you a dish.
This guy is played by Ted Sutton, and he's supposed to be essentially a recruiter that knows about Joaquin Phoenix.
If I remember correctly, I think he's in The Village too, but don't quote me on that.
Okay. If I were to gauge where M. Night Shyamalan's ego was his biggest, before the reality of the situation got to him.
Close your mouth!
Oh,
mouth.
God.
Also, no, it was not in The Village.
Okay, then.
This man is a sergeant first class. He has absolutely no authority to go sending anybody anywhere.
Oh boy, the return of Jay. Jay has to see over bad portrayal of the military in a movie.
I take
I'm sitting
I
here
take
like-
it Sergeant First Class is really low ranking.
It is E7. It's not low ranking, but he does not have the authority to go commanding.
So this is a guy coping, essentially.
Yeah, they have him in the right position, but they have the wrong person trying to do anything here.
Let me guess, don't you see, son? If I recruit you, they'll have to promote me.
Okay,
Sorry,
and here-
did you
okay,
just say getting toes licked by a beautiful woman?
Yes.
All right, that's a good segue. Allow me to talk about another one of Shyamalan's trademark issues: awkward dialogue.
It's not even the barely disguised fetish like with Tarantino. It just feels out of nowhere. Also, coincidentally, this guy who also knows Joaquin Phoenix's character is also here conveniently to chastise him and say that he's a loser.
And there's another running trend of Shyamalan films: the characters who have pretty much one quirk, and that's their character.
Yeah,
I'm telling
that's
you
the
right
thing.
now, it's 1999. They're in the middle of production for this movie, and a certain someone comes in, puts his arms around Shyamalan, and says, "Hey, I'll give you $20 if you sneak a foot reference in for the movie."
Also, again, and those characters are just there for that scene. We will never see them again, if I remember correctly. So they're there just for, again, on a paper they're there for that exposition, of course, but it feels like it's way too coincidental to be just there for delivering to the audience. It's one of those things that kind of takes you out. Okay, commercial, I guess.
But it's not for...
Okay. What I was saying, when it comes to the back-to-back static shot... okay.
This is still going.
Usually, it's usually done in order to, as far as I know, it should be done in a way of it stops when the actual dialogue stops. But as we saw before, the scene was constantly cutting back and forth while the dialogue was still going between the two. So it kind of feels off, I guess. That's why.
M.Night.
Hi.
What was
Oh,
that
great!
speaking?
It's a pizzeria because they have the fucking thing with the white and red squares.
The
Of course.
checkerboard table.
You know, Shyamalan definitely should have gotten into comedy, because having all of his stoic characters being stoic with wacky things going on in the background has made me laugh no less than 4 times so
Speaking
far.
of which,
Deji.
Hi, I'm
Sorry,
Mike.
not Deji, sorry. My bad.
Yeah.
Jay, all the more reason why we need to watch The Happening, because The Happening is literally the pinnacle of that.
Also, Jay, you have to understand that much like with Zack Snyder, the problem is that M.Night Shyamalan has an ego represented right now in this very scene. And as a result, he probably wouldn't really do it. The closest we got to it was with The Visit, and let me tell you, someone may like it, but frankly...
Oh,
it was
speaking of M.Night
Christopher
Shyamalan.
Walken, frankly, I cringe.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
this
On
is
the
another
subject
show.
of Tarantino, I don't think Tarantino is the best actor in the world, but he's still better than M.Night in this movie.
To
Not
make
just-
cameos, to be as cameos as he. But again,
not
I
just
love
that,
I love
like-
how every other character had to contemplate in awe the fact that he was present.
Yeah,
there is
this
an
was a-
there is an in-story explanation this time around, and it's not as as ego-fillating like in Leading the Water. Shyamalan is not the savior of humanity in this movie, so don't worry about that. But it's still presented awkwardly.
And by the
It
way,
is.
JT is not exaggerating. Shyamalan legit made himself the savior, Jesus Christ of mankind in Lady in the Water. Right down to
Very
dying
good.
for our sins, too.
Oh my god. I've already known he's an egoist. I was 14 when The Last Airbender came out, so Avatar was a heavy part of my life then.
Oh,
And-
God.
You saw the trailers for it, and you knew immediately it was going to bomb.
I had no idea because Last Airbender was my first ever Shyamalan flick.
Ooh. Other way around.
Yes, that is how I got
It-
introduced to the man, with him sodomizing one of my favorite shows.
It boils down to also the fact that the awkward dialogue. Okay, can we talk about that stupid scene with the pharmacist? What was the
Yes.
point? Was that supposed to be funny? I guess. I'm guessing
I
that was meant to
guess,
be.
okay.
I guess it was meant to be the comic relief scene.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess.
The idea is that to remember Mel Gibson, despite being a reverend, is not practicing anymore, but the
No, I know
pharmacist
what the joke
wanted
is.
to be confessed. But I guess, the idea behind it is that, her scenes were really stupid shit, so she wasn't really in a hurry to do it.
That's the sad
It's just
thing
so
about M. Night
stupid.
Shyamalan with comedy, Jay. When he's trying to intentionally be funny, he more often than not fails. Hence the slapstick and Lady in the Water.
I just remembered, this is
The best joke.
2002 when this movie came out.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a couple of years after the whole Y2K scare. A perfect timing for it, especially considering you can manipulate technology to bring that fear right back. It's a cash cow right there.
The best
Yeah,
intentional
that
joke.
is-
The best intentional joke Shyamalan did was, ironically enough, in The Last Airbender, when the guy who says, "Yeah, I'm arresting that child." Why? He was making tiny stones that was behind a tree. It really hurts.
That
That's like
actually,
the best part of it.
it might be because that's like the only part that sounds like it was spoken by actual human beings, too.
Yeah.
Also, another thing that you may notice is that the movie is slowly building up to different elements. Again, technically classic stuff, like in this case also the baby monitor, although it still feels a bit awkward, as you can see. Again, there is no perfect science in how you prepare a Chekhov's gun, ideally, but there are, good and bad ways to do it still.
I will say this, that I get what Shyamalan is trying to do, but, and again, this is like off of the one or two times I've seen this movie heckin' bores me. Like, I mean, I get what they're going for. The slow burn up until when stuff really goes out of control crazy, but the characters just don't feel endearing enough to carry the softer moments. I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
What exactly are they trying to do right now?
They intercepted apparently a strange signal via the baby monitor, and the child is convinced that it means something.
Because as we all know, baby monitors are good for capturing alien signals.
Pedro, you can
I
clear.
guess it's the equivalent of a walkie-talkie, meaning that since it's using radio frequencies, it technically can.
I guess.
I mean,
It's just bizarre to use a device. It could have been, honestly, a better explanation might have been that if the police officer had given Mel Gibson a walkie-talkie to keep in contact with her, that would have been probably better.
Or hell, even like a police radio or something like that. Like I'm sorry.
The idea at the base to have a device similar to that intercepting the alien signal is actually fine by me. It's just the fact that it's a baby monitor, maybe it's a bit weird.
For referencing, baby monitors are noticeably of weaker radio frequency. Like, let me put it like this. They're the kind of things that, heck, even an airplane might let you use because they have that weak a frequency. So, having that of all things be what intercepts the transmission feels silly when you could have done more powerful things. Yeah, keep telling
That's a
yourselves
nice
that.
smell, but we haven't started filming yet.
Like, okay, now...
That's denial to the level of anti-conspiracy theory.
Anyway, go on, Jay, you were saying...
Baby monitors tend to be extremely sensitive on account of having to pick up the voices of, babies.
Mm-hmm.
The radio frequency is weak, but it does make the most noise the moment it picks something up. Which is probably why he has to get on top of the car in order to catch the frequency.
Though, in that case, though, given these are aliens with supposedly advanced technology, as we'll later learn...
We'll get to that.
You'll think that they would have cloaked better against a baby monitor, but...
That's where this is starting to fall apart.
Again, we will have to get back to this by the end, but this is not a traditional alien invasion as you may think it might be.
Yeah, that's way later down the road, but...
Yeah. The important part is when Mel has felt that the disturbance in the force in the corner and he wants to check out.
But yeah, we're 36 minutes in, and I guess we can at least say we've gotten to know the characters. But are we really endeared to them?
I made the joke at the beginning about Kingdom Hearts, but honestly, I got nothing in our world that can be done for
Look,
this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually even contest what you just said, Jova, because see, the thing about the characters in this movie is that they're flat and underdeveloped. Like the Mel Gibson is a priest who has a crisis faith. Okay, fine. Thing is, the movie doesn't really explore that in depth. Not really. Like you could have made him a very interesting character by exploring like what made him lose his faith. Like so we're going to learn later what made him lose his faith.
The loss of his wife is what loses his faith.
Yes, I think did they mention that already?
No,
No,
but
No,
they
it's
haven't.
implied.
it's not that hard to guess at the very least at this
Sure.
stage.
But
He was
even
once a father. He had a loving wife. He had his two
So-
kids
so
and his
let me-
brother. 6 months come down the line, he is no longer. He's just a farmer. His kids are coping with the loss of his wife. It kind of clicks together. Something happened to his wife. He blames God for it. He's left his position.
Okay. You'd think the movie would give that some kind of attention. Like we could have some flashbacks to how his wife was and how their married life was. So we can properly get some context and see what has been lost, so we can empathize with him. But the movie doesn't do that. It's kind of hard for me to empathize with his loss if I know nothing about the wife. I do not know what has been lost.
I just so
What's
happened
happened?
to check the year of the movie, and only then did I find out his name is Graham Hess. They have not used his name once in.
I don't
How
even
long are
think
we
they.
already?
I don't think
38
they even
minutes.
mention. I don't think they're gonna mention it at all. I don't remember if they do.
So far, the
Weird.
best character in this movie is Joaquin Phoenix's character, and even then, that's only because Phoenix is the only one in this movie that's giving a performance that's slightly above a plank of wood.
As mentioned, as the exposition mentioned before, Joaquin Phoenix used to play, if I remember correctly, baseball, but he retired after either after an injury or an accident of some kind that made him
Apparently, it's because he
lose.
stopped at it.
That's
Oh,
okay.
so the
it was
Michael
just
Jordan reason.
yeah, basically.
Ah, the Jay.
Jordan
May-
reason.
Maybe that's the impetus for the Kingdom Hearts world. Mickey Mouse has to convince him to get back in the game.
let me use Christopher Nolan's Inception as an example, right? Because the primary conflict between the main character of that movie is the loss of his wife as well, just like Mel Gibson's character here. The difference is that in Inception, through the liberal use of flashbacks, we get to see how DiCaprio's life with his wife was before the story started. As a result, we get to see exactly what has been lost, and we even get him directly commenting on said past. And in here, we don't really get any kind of exploration of Mel Gibson's character. As a result, I don't really empathize with him. I don't know anything. He lost his wife, and that's basically all that gets told to me.
Again,
on this scene.
Yeah, basically, lights are being spotted all over the world. And again, what the movie is basically saying that
Oh god, the scene.
Listen, Bo, this is very important.
don't you have like a
Please.
free VHS to record this on or
also,
something?
the more you're talking, the more time you're wasting.
Yeah.
Bo's big brother. No, everything does not change in science books.
Yeah,
It's
who-
just going to be adding more.
Who talks like that?
Yeah,
No,
again,
that's a-
just find another tape.
There you go.
If I find it
Born?
interesting how
Swimsuit special. I was half right.
Shyamalan, you see, Shyamalan has two different methods of writing characters. Either make them super duper stoic or make them very, very quirky, like that guy that was calling Joaquin Phoenix a dick earlier in that scene.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's not a stress reliever.
All right, I
Hmm.
protected you one time. You've now completely failed.
Anyway, what the movie is trying to say basically is that the viewer is just in the same shoes as the other characters. So the information that is relieved, conveyed about the alien invasion is just as much for these characters. We do not know the details. We don't know how effective it may be. We don't know what the aliens are doing. So again,
Oh my
Some
god.
people- I remember even back when the movie came out, some people were a bit dissatisfied because they wanted to do something like, say, Independence Day. But again, this movie takes a very different approach than that to it.
That being said, we did just have the characters insinuate that this might be end times.
Get it? Also, just to know, Jova, you can actually answer me this, and you might probably still be looked up, but just to know. First of all, let me check actually where are we? Like crop circles or Sovereign State, but I don't know where.
You mean where the
Probably-
movie takes place?
Probably somewhere in Kansas.
Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
It said earlier it was like someplace 40 odd miles away from Philadelphia because Shyamalan.
So let me ask this
I
question.
forgot about that.
Let me ask this question, Jova, because obviously probably a minority compared to the vast majority of the religious folk. How much of a percentage of Catholic is in the U.S.?
Like you're asking how much of America is Catholic?
Percentage-wise, mind you, because again, if I remember correctly, well, no, he actually had a wife and children, so Mel Gibson character has to be Protestant for
They're
that.
about 23% are Catholics.
I was trying to reason if Mel Gibson character was, but then I remember, of course, because Catholic priest tends to have the vote of celibacy, so no, he has to be Protestant for that.
That said, 1.8% are Mormons. Maybe.
All right.
But yeah, no, like, I get it. They're trying to get the audience stoked with the idea that aliens are here to end us, since, well, we pretty much saw that alien in the cornfield. Well, its leg. I digress. They're saving the big appearance for later, but it's just hard for me to really be endeared. Like, say what you will about Independence Day and how corny it was, but Independence Day was a good ensemble piece that knew at least how to get you legit worried about whether or not characters would live or die in that thing.
Also,
right now we're learning more about Joaquin Phoenix's character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thing is, it's nothing particularly super duper interesting. It's more so like quirky things that have happened to him in the past more than anything.
We are now
Like,
almost halfway through this movie, and I don't
I'm
feel
curious
like I know enough.
since, both to Jova and Pedro, I'm curious since you guys have mentioned something like this in the past, but is it possible that this is the kind of story that you think would have worked better, but you think ideally for the story it has to tell should have been 60 minutes instead of, 100 roughly?
No.
Almost 110.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. I don't think making it shorter would have helped. I feel what would have helped was them.
I agree.
What would have helped was them actually focusing their time better, because there are a lot of, in typical Shyamalan fashion, long pauses in scenes here or there, and none of which really feel like they contribute that well to the characters overall.
I actually think the opposite too. If anything, maybe making it longer might have been better, so we could actually, have scenes that actually properly explore Mel Gibson's past with his wife, so we can again empathize with what has been lost. Because all you tell me is that he had a wife and he lost her. Okay, fine, but you need to tell me more than just that.
It's also an unfortunate. We will also see. Sorry. Go on.
I think they're telling you right now how he lost his wife.
We also get a flashback, Jay. Don't worry about that. But it also symbolizes a part of the time where, unfortunately, the wife in this case, the wife exists essentially solely to be essentially, a character motivator for Mel Gibson. She's basically freed for it, and her entire existence revolves to be a moral crutch for the character, which. It's not really a good look.
Okay,
I was just checking what other films came out the same day this film did. One of them was Master of Disguise.
Oh,
by the way, I should just note right now, he did explain in that conversation back and forth about whether it's a miracle or just happenstance. He did explain that his wife was passing away. The last memory she had was of one of his brother's ball games, and just stated that there is no one watching out for us. So yes, her death caused him to lose his faith.
Yes. Also, that Jay, that's the thing. The thing that was literally just mentioned, we're gonna see now. So it's a bit redundant, actually.
Now, I will say this. I hesitate to call it fridge since women in refrigerators is definitely a problem, but it's a term that we have to be careful with not to call just because, you know,
Let me put
this
it
or that
this way,
character
Joe.
dies.
Like I said, the wife, as Fedor noted, the character of the wife was not elaborated that much. We know only about the history that she was just married to Mel Gibson. We don't know how her behavior was. We have to assume it was fine enough for the children to be raised until that point, but nothing that much more. And the significance when it comes to the story is the idea that she died, and her words will be of an inspirational value for the characters involved in this movie. So,
Hang on a
yeah,
second.
I think the checkbox
Now
are
that you
ticked.
started stepping in for writing territory, now I have to step in. Fridging and an off-screen death are a Venn diagram of similarities, but they are still very different. Fridging has to have a character be established at some point in time and then have their death happen off screen to be found by the main character in order to change their personality arc. An off screen death usually happens when the character isn't established and it's just a driving point for the on screen character.
Which is what.
In this case, she's not fridged, she is an off screen that she is used for motivation.
Also, can I bring up that scene from earlier where Gibson finds out about that his wife's in trouble? Yeah, God, I mean, it's okay. Mel, actress who plays the cop, someone's dying. Sound a bit more urgent, please.
It's funny, Dweebs. I forgot. Have you seen Dweebs? Just to know, have you seen Scary Movie 3?
No.
The movie itself, as far as I remember, is not particularly great, and I haven't seen it in a while, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of stuff, particularly the 8 Mile section, that is aged for the worst. But the thing that I remember for the parody of Signs that they did in the movie, I still remember a couple of gags that I genuinely like, and one of them involves parodying that scene with a film that I've seen before, which parodies the back and forth shot between the cop and the Mel Gibson character, played by Charlie Sheen. And the gag is that each time we cut back to the character, to the officer character, her hat keeps getting bigger.
My goodness.
So at least there is that.
Yeah, what Jay said just now. And second, I can give you a good example right there too. See, why not a tinfoil hat? Ha ha ha. ha. Anyway,
so the aliens can't read their minds. Cute.
Here's a good example too. That flashback we just saw between the cop and Mel Gibson about the wife dying, right? That flashback felt so abruptly short. Like you'd think you'd have some kind of reaction from Mel Gibson's character where we see him break down in tears after just hearing his wife. That so we can properly empathize with his pain. But no. The movie is so hesitant at showing us this character acting like a human being.
The problem is that also the scene is broken. If I remember correctly, we will see the rest of it later. But the problem is that it probably should have been one unique, big, just single scene, in full format instead of being segmented, as is going to happen now.
But yeah, then that may have spoiled the twist.
Yeah, Dad, you have a toe. This is a Shyamalan movie. Don't do that again.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't even notice the flashback scene. I was so focused on trying to find it that it snuck right by me.
Mind you, just to mention, so that I finish quickly on that argument, despite me getting the terminology wrong, my point still stands. The character of a wife is poorly developed or not developed at all, and she exists only to essentially be dead for the sake of motivating the family in some kind of fashion. It's still sloppy.
I can agree with that.
Definitely.
Like, I mean, and you know what? Look, even with a character who's meant to die, you can do interesting things with that character. Heck, look at Ace Attorney. One of the characters that people were tricked into thinking was the main character due to her presence on the main cover ends up dying by, the second case.
Did you got this illustration from those murals at the end of Neverending Story that predict the future or something?
I know, right?
That's why I was asking for more flashbacks, because flashbacks where we get to see how the wife was and what kind of relationship she had with both him and the kids again, just like in Inception.
Oh
would have
no, the
fix-
telephone!
Would have fixed all those problems that Teo was just mentioning. So if anything, I think they should have had this movie be even longer, so we could properly have scenes like those.
Okay.
Also, I should specify, the problem isn't that the mom character wasn't poorly explained or represented. She is not meant to exist in the movie. She is a driving factor for his backstory. The problem here is that they won't go into his backstory, so they just keep randomly bringing her up.
That's
Well,
because,
they
Jay, they
won't-
want
They
to
won't
try.
drive him. They just she was at one point here. She's dead. Can you explain what that's done to him? How he feels? No, he
Jay,
just doesn't
Jay.
want to be.
Jay, that's literally what I've been saying all this time.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
you are
okay.
correct.
Okay, the deal here, Jay, is that M. Night Shyamalan is trying to keep us in suspense with mysteries of the true circumstances behind the
going
mother's
on,
death,
actually,
what's
yeah.
going on, and all that stuff. Like I
I
said
get that.
before, my problem is that the story is spinning its wheels with, yes, I get
Yeah.
it, scenes that show them doing stuff that kids, family, whatever would do in that regard, but it takes away from the attention. Keep in mind, this is supposed to be a plot where, for all we know, aliens might be here to end the world, yet it feels like Independence Day if it was hit with 100 horse tranquilizers. No,
Are you
sorry,
sure we-
elephant
am I-
tranquilizers.
We're all
Are
coming
we
at it
sure
from
these
different
two
angles.
aren't
But
the
we're all
aliens?
correct.
Yeah.
They're the only living characters in this movie. We're all coming at it from different angles, but we are all relatively correct. There is a movie going on, but at the end of the day, the main character is quite literally trying to run away from the movie.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the plot going on. He's not trying to run away from the aliens. He's trying to run away from existing in a movie. And that's what's really dragging this whole thing down.
Anyway,
Our character wants nothing to do with what's going on.
I'll mention more after this particular scene because this is like important. It's about for the main actor to meet the director, so to speak.
Oh boy, here we go.
We interrupt science to bring you everybody's going to the rapture.
No, that's sorry. No, Jay, that's the happening actually.
Yeah.
Why are you in your car instead of your house?
I think that's what he's about to explain. To actually ask Lives.
Please, show me the answers, God.
I prefer M. Night, thank you very much.
Why? Why?
Well, if you'll let me finish.
And yeah, M.
And
Night
it-
is playing the
You're
pro.
the idiot that hit his wife, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're the idiot that hit his wife.
It's a small world after
After
all.
all.
I mean, this is
Yeah.
Disney.
Oh, there's the office zooming now.
Damn,
It's a
the
bit
one,
slow.
the wonder everyone
Yeah,
acts
yeah.
like they're in. The wonder everyone acts like they're on
yeah.
horse tranquilizers. Shyamalan himself is
And
doing
Night,
that.
I don't want to see every single pore on Mel Gibson's face. Sorry.
Hey, Teo, I just realized something. Shyamalan reused this plot element in Devil. Remember, there's also two characters in Devil who kind of have the same thing that these two have going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Only, but I think in that movie they have a more direct, basically confrontation about things. Where in this case, the
M.Night
alien
Shyamalan,
invasion-
did you
the
just
alien invasion
appear to
main
say-
plot takes over them.
M.Night Shyamalan, did you appear in this movie to say, I hit your wife and God made me do it? Because for
Why?
the love of fuck, that is just what happened. He was explaining that he was the one who hit his wife, and then the very last line was, it's as if it was meant to be.
Believe it or not.
I was going to say maybe M.Night knew something about Mel Gibson at the time and this is his way of taking revenge, but I don't know. Doesn't seem to be the case.
You know, the thing is, believe it or not, this is kind of foreshadowing. For what? I can't say. That would be spoiling, but believe it or not, there is actually a point to this conversation. God help me. You sound so convincing when you say it like that, Shyamalan.
Yeah,
Also-
I'll say no wonder everyone's on horse tranquilizers. The director's doing the same thing.
Whoa, calm down, Mal. You're almost showing some kind of emotion just now.
Also, I'm very sorry about what I did to you and your family. Is that what he told to all the many fans who saw
And
Last
actually,
Airbender?
he just drops the fact that he has an alien in the basement and locked inside, and then goes.
Hey, did you say that? Did you say that Shyamalan wrote himself to be Jesus Christ?
Yes,
Lady in the
and
water,
Lady in the
but not
water.
in the. Not, again, like
So
you said,
that is the
it's-
second time he's become centrifugal to the actual plot.
It's yeah, still is for these. At least these previous cameos were actually more humble than from. But you may, if you even if you don't know the movie, you might have actually seen this scene, the found footage scene.
Oh my god, people shouting in Portuguese. What's going on in
Because I
Portugal?
think actually Brazil, I think.
It's Brazil, actually.
Wow, the aliens really have chosen the
Yeah,
worst
what
place
is-
to invade.
what is
Wait
Portugal
for it.
anyway?
The aliens missed Portugal because it's too tiny for them to hit.
Of course.
You see, Tia, what typically happens is they're gunning for Portugal, but they hit Spain instead because it's a bigger target. So,
That's Spanish, you
They
idiot.
can't hear you.
It's
yeah. Actually, yeah, Jay has a point. Joaquin, I get that you're Spanish, but they speak Portuguese. They don't speak Spanish.
Oh no! Its CGI
yeah.
rendering is hideous.
Right quickly, I want it to be known because I just cannot stand that. The director himself popped into the movie to say, hey, I am the driving force behind your whole character change. Also, I trapped one of the enemies in a nearby area for
basement.
you to study. Have fun.
Bye.
Okay, JJ, I gotta ask, how familiar are you with M. Night Shyamalan and his works?
The Last Airbender and no more. He
Oh.
became my enemy after that.
Same.
but,
I've gotten to see a lot more of his career now, thanks to Pedro. I will say this, though. That's a thing to expect from M. Night Shyamalan films. That one weird, out-of-nowhere place scene that's just there to go, oh, hey, here's all you need to know. Bye.
Well, yeah, considering you just said he
I
wrote
will-
himself as Jesus of Nazareth.
I'll tell you this much. There's never a dull moment for him because no matter how bad his movies get, they're always at the very least interestingly bad.
Yes. Yes.
Except old. Old can go fuck itself.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. Yes, old is disgusting, but again, that's another thing that makes it quite
Fascinating.
a specimen to dissect. Like I said.
Okay.
I never said it was interesting for good reasons, Whips.
So here's
There's
the...
also the fact that recently M.Night Shyamalan has been starting to doing adaptations rather than original works, and I wonder what changed for him to do that.
Well, okay, here's what changed. Glass happened. After that,
Yeah.
I think he kind of was finally knocked off his high horse, so every now and then while he's making bad movies, he'll do a decent adaptation, and that'll get him back in the good graces. Like, here's the sad thing, Jay. So, after Earth, he made The Visit, which was actually a pretty good film, and then he made Split, which people loved. Like, believe it or not, it seemed like M. Night Shyamalan was about to reclaim his former glory, especially when it turned out that Split was a stealth sequel to Unbreakable. And finally, the trilogy was going to culminate with Glass, and then Glass stunk up the room with one of the worst twists ever seen in a Shyamalan film.
Yeah, and that's saying something. To answer Teo, the only information I was able to find, Teo, is that apparently, according to people who knew him, he had the highest grade in religion class, even though he wasn't Catholic. But when it comes to what religion, if at all, he has, I haven't found anything.
All right,
I was mostly just making a joke, so it's not even my business technically.
Well,
Fun
I
fact,
actually want to answer something to what Jova said earlier, but go on.
he did actually attend an Episcopal academy, hence the whole getting best grade in religion class and wasn't Catholic, and later a private Episcopal high school. So
Sure.
whatever his religion was, he has gotten into contact with the Episcopal side of things.
It's not worth it.
No, no. Birds are singing. Anyway, Joe, but here's the thing about Joe, about the whole Shyamalan cameo thing. See, I wouldn't even mind this, his cameos in this and Land in Water so much if they were done more in a lighthearted, self-aware jest type of thing.
Oh,
Stanley.
absolutely.
Kind of like how Kojima has himself be the god of the Metal Gear universe, and the only thing he does with that is have the characters rescue him from missions, really. And it's
So
just there
a
to
la
be
Stanley.
and it's just there to be a quirky moment, you know.
I think
And
the
that's
best.
basically it. Like, so it's not like you can't do these things. You can. The problem is that when Shyamalan does it, there's always such an ego aspect to it that's just
Yes.
revolting.
Okay, for context, Jay, Lady in the Water was M. Night Shyamalan going to the world. You didn't like the village? I'll show you. Basically, Lady in the Water was meant to be a critical analysis of how to make a story. As in, that is literally what the story is about, making the story. The main character's name is even called Story. It's stupid.
Well, okay, other than that, it also tries to be kind of like Edward Scissorhands, the idea of a fairy tale set more in modern times.
That too.
Mhm.
Not a bad idea. Of course,
More
the
like
problem
a
is the
deconstru-
execution.
Well, I'll argue Edward Scissorhands is a straightforward fairy tale, whereas Lady Water is meant to be a deconstruction of the fairy tale.
It still has the straightforward element of the Madame Narf having to be taken
True.
by the eagle to the sea.
Okay,
But
No, no, no,
It-
no. The happening
it
wouldn't
does.
be for another 6 years.
and I
It
kid you,
does. Go on.
I kid you not, Jay. M. Night Shyamalan got the personification of his critics put into what else?
Yeah.
An in-story critic, and has the critic be like the one person who dies.
Also, these creatures that they just said don't like being near places that have water. So virtually all of planet Earth, then.
Oh, by the way,
Okay, while I get that, Dwibs, I will have to get back to it for the ending. But
I
let
mean,
me
there's
tell you
water. Well, there's water in the air, isn't there?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly
Well,
my point too. But
We'll get back to that.
yeah, he kind of got ahead of the self-dribs. But regardless, though, oh, by the way, children, you know the man who killed your mother? Turns out he has an alien in his basement.
Wait. Hang on. You're not overreacting. You're barely reacting in the first place.
Yeah, I wanted to make a note of that. This man walked into the next scene as if he didn't just chop the hands off of the fingers off of one of the aliens.
Again, in the
think,
basement of the man who killed his wife, by the way, but again, what a day.
After we're done with the movie, I'll go back and rewatch the scene with
Dude.
in Brazil, so I can explain what the characters were saying there.
You don't know yet?
you don't know yet.
Oh yet.
Yeah, in true rural American tradition, the house is important. We always stay there. Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Counterpoint, I'm
Also,
your
how
dad
was
and
making-
concerned for your safety, but
Yeah,
okay.
this ain't
How-
again. I know that it would be a given because
Also,
Mel Gibson,
why
but this
you-
ain't a democracy.
Are you
It
trying
has
to
been an
cosplay-
hour and 5 minutes, and I'm still trying to get away from the plot. Why
Are you
can't you
trying to-
understand that?
Yes,
Are you
please.
trying to cosplay as Dipsy from Teletubbies?
Again, to be fair, the whole aliens can't read your mind tinfoil thing.
In fact, I might as well get into that as well. Honestly, I think Mel Gibson is really badly cast in this role.
Which
Because
is
Mel
Okay,
weird.
Gibson
mostly for this story. Again, going back to the parallel with Fat Man, if this was supposed to be an action movie where Mel Gibson is a preacher, but actually at some point gets a shotgun and starts killing aliens with it,
Well,
it
obviously,
probably
yeah.
would have been awesome. But again, the reason why he's probably miscast is because this wants to, like I said, be a much more subdued story.
Well, yeah, that's all I was
thing
about to
from
say.
sorry.
I have a
Mel
question.
Gibson's specialty as an actor is intense roles, like we saw in Fat Man, like we saw in Braveheart, like we saw in some of his better performances, right? He will be, again, it's the same reason why casting Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu was a stupid idea. Samuel L. Jackson is an actor who is at his best when he's playing intense roles. It makes little sense to cast him as a quiet, wise Jedi Master. You get Morgan Freeman for that. You know what I mean? Same thing here. You should have gotten, if anything, why not get Bruce Willis back? You know, Bruce Willis is good at those kinds of roles. And he was kind of Shyamalan's go-to actor at the time. So why not get Bruce in here?
Graves, since you can track at the moment, can you tell me what Bruce Willis was doing around this time?
Oh, wait, was this...
2002?
Yeah. Maybe he was busy with something else.
Wait, was this while he was busy dealing with that ugly divorce he had with Demi Moore?
God, I might.
Because remember, that was the whole reason he had to get out of Island of Dr. Moreau.
Okay, no, that was before this.
That was a while before.
Yeah, it was the end of the 90s.
Yeah. The one thing to remember is that divorce cases can last a while, so I'm wondering if he was still dealing with that around the time... And maybe that's why he wasn't available?
No, I'm genuinely wondering if when Shyamalan came up with this role, he was thinking of Bruce Willis when he wrote it, because it does feel like it. It does feel like the exact
we do know
same
that
kind of character he usually gives Bruce Willis.
We do know that M.Night Shyamalan wrote a lot of script for these movies way early in his career, and did not use them until certain points. So maybe this was written around the same time as some stuff like The Sixth Sense.
Apparently, in 2001, he was going to be in Ocean's 11 and dropped out to record an album. So it's likely he was working on that album through 2002.
In 2002, he was in 3 movies. He was in 2. He was an executive producer on 1. He was in Heart's War as Colonel William A. McNamara, Mr. Blandford in Grand Champion, and was an executive producer in the Crocodile Hunter Collision Course.
Okay.
He was also in True West. But all 4 of these movies released in 2002, which means he was on production before then.
Okay,
Yeah,
I have found some interesting news about an actor who was originally supposed to be in this movie. Mark Ruffalo, of all people. But yeah, apparently Mark Ruffalo was originally supposed to be in the role of Meryl Hess, that's Joaquin Phoenix's role in this. I haven't been able to find anything that suggests that M. Night made this movie with Bruce Willis in mind. I'm trying to figure out.
Oh yeah, that's something that I wanted to mention before, but I haven't yet. Okay, this is something that I don't hear that many people when they talk about this movie, positive or negative that may be. I don't hear them talking about much. As in, the idea that Joaquin Phoenix and Mel Gibson are supposed to be brothers. Sure, age difference is something that can be expected from siblings such as them. But this to me has the same vibe of, Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo are supposed to be brothers in the Super Mario movie. The movie can keep claiming all the time, but I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I honestly thought Joaquin Phoenix was supposed to be like the eldest son. Honestly.
It feels like an album cover, like the way this shot is set. Like it looks like an album cover.
Yes, it does. Also,
M. Night, I get it out of focus and everything, but my eyes can go a bit cross-eyed if I keep looking like that.
Okay. Part of me wonders if actually M. Night Shyamalan made this of the intention of doing it without Bruce Willis, because I did find like an article from as early as 2001. That spotlights the fact that this would be his first non-Bruce Willis mainstream flick. So maybe this was Shyamalan trying to prove that, hey, I'm not that formulaic. I can still make gold even without all the ingredients from my previous films, which I guess technically Signs was received well and made the money.
Shyamalan was charged $2,000 by Mel Gibson to get him to smile for that one scene.
Yeah. Here's his flaw in that reasoning, Jova. Yeah, you didn't get Bruce Willis, but you're still having the main character play the exact same type
Yeah.
of character that was in Unbreakable in Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Also,
So,
to say something else, because I don't think that one is also brought up that much. Also about the setting, this is a
Whoa,
house
whoa,
about.
whoa, whoa, whoa! That's a bit extreme, mate.
Yeah, it's kind of like Will Smith in After Earth. Denied, sit down.
you let
No,
mom
it's more
die.
like no. Yeah, I was on about him.
You let
It's
mom.
it's like that guy in Alaska.
Jesus.
You let mom, dad. I'm
There
sorry.
you go. We reached the other side.
Well, to be fair, you know, that brat of a kid started it.
You let mom die, dad.
Also-
Now please pass the chicken.
This is supposed to be an house of farmers, corn farmers specifically, not something that they have animals aside from a dog and everything. But the vastness of their cornfield makes it weird the fact that they would be able to manage all of that with just a few people, handling things. Maybe not.
Okay.
I don't know about the logistic. Maybe they hire someone for the season, but I don't know.
Drag.
Aw, look at
Tupac.
see, this is a scene that is not earned because you didn't. Again, all those scenes that I've been asking for
Oh,
were not Oh, there you go.
Probably should have eaten. Now you're gonna have to fight on an empty stomach.
And the whole conflict of it starts with the kid acting like a gigantic knobhead for no reason. You let mom die? Fuck off! You're as bad as that kid from Alaska that said
Okay.
you wish his mom had died and not.
well, I understand
In
what
Yeah,
you
his
not the
defense, he is approximately 8 to 11.
not only
Emotions
that.
are flaring up, and they're about to have to fight for their life.
Even at
They don't
8 years
Bleeps,
old, I
bleeps,
would have figured out that that was a
one at a
horrible
time.
thing to
One at
say.
a time, guys.
Well, I get what you mean, Dweebs. You have to remember, Dweebs, not that much time obviously has passed. The traumatic experience of the loss of the mother, has basically conditioned the child to react and cope in a bizarre kind of way, and that includes potentially also blaming, because a child will be more like to start blaming, everything around them, instead of themselves, in order to rationalize things, because brain is not yet fully developed. I'm getting somewhere, Dweebs. You can make an argument that this is a problem out of universe, as in it should have been written better.
Yeah,
No,
for all the
I'm
defense that
sorry.
I made for the kid, George is still right. Nothing's earned in this
Okay,
movie.
here's
Okay. To finish off what I was saying, okay, no. If people are gonna bash the shit out of that bit in Alaska, you should bash the shit out of this too, because they're both exactly the same. They both come the fuck out of nowhere, and they're both horribly mean-spirited for no reason.
If I may, my biggest issue with the scene is we don't know nearly enough about all the mother's death to know whether or not the kid is coming from a place of warranting. And I get it. Maybe kids act like that, but still, it comes out of nowhere, especially since this is the first scene we see which suggests that the son blames the dad for the mom's death. And keep in mind, we are close to the final climax of the movie. It's like, maybe show a scene showing that the dad could have stopped the mom from going off here, but he couldn't. Obviously it still wouldn't be his fault, but at least it would make more sense why the child came to that conclusion. That just felt like that line was just put there so we could have a dramatic scene of them coming to blows, but then they make up and cry tearfully. Oh, aren't we all happy?
Okay, also,
Exactly.
I might have missed. Sorry, no, go, Pedro.
There's also the fact that, and like I've said before in our commentaries, one thing that's also important to remember is that you're right. If your writing being realistic does not automatically make it good. You still have to make it feel earned and natural within the story you're telling. And while that reaction from the kid might have been technically realistic, in the context of the movie, it feels like it comes a bit out of nowhere because the conflict. Hell, there's not even any conflict that was established within the kid himself. If they had shown scenes
not
before,
Isabel.
Jova, what about Isabel?
Damn
Oh,
it! Stop killing the dogs.
well,
Yeah,
you
what
see,
about
guys, I'm sorry to report, but the next Animal Crossing game will have to go Isabel-less.
That's basically
And
it.
we're still gonna have Tom Nook exchanging money.
Well, only to help for the funeral costs, of course.
Here's an idea. Why don't you make it so that we have, again, aside from the scenes with Mel Gibson that I've asked about before, why not have some scenes where you show the effects of the trauma that are being inflicted on this poor kid? Like you can maybe show some scenes, and like Jova suggested, you could also have a scene where maybe the father potentially could have stopped the mother from taking that car trip. Or again, the plot feels underdeveloped. There's a lot of context that feels missing.
Like, I'll just put it like this. Oh, sorry, go on to you.
This is the thing that I actually am agreeing with when it comes to a critique of this movie. The idea that the alien cannot get through wooden barricades. Mind you, not necessarily just the door. The fact that there is a barricade. We will learn, this is not really a spoiler, Jay, but we will learn that these particular aliens are more of a scouting unit. So of course they're not super armed. They do not have like a laser weapon or something, and they're maybe lanky, so not super strong. But you're telling me that they don't have literally anything to break down a wooden door. They don't have any kind of chemical or a way to circumvent or to open to unlock a wooden door of that kind. I'm sorry. That's a point where my suspension of disbelief actually gets broken.
It's the
They
implied
the book that Morgan was reading that the aliens wanted to go hand-to-hand combat with the other humans as to not bring... They didn't want to bring chemicals or any of that type so that we didn't go with the nuclear option, and the planet became useless to them.
Okay,
so kind of implied, but that book's also just straight up nonsense.
Okay, now here's an important bit. It's revealed that the mother had dreams. Like, you remember that disturbing picture we saw in the book of like the family being killed while the house is being burned? Yeah, apparently the mother was having visions of the future in her dreams. Which means
this is a fucking Stephen King story.
Which means
if mom was a clairvoyant somehow,
psychic,
yeah, as that tends to happen in some of Shyamalan's films, where people just have special powers.
The attic.
But isn't the attic technically made of wood?
No,
maybe the door had creaks in them. I don't know. It still feels, again, regardless, it feels inconsistent the way the aliens approach doors. That's the point that I actually understand.
Two things.
It is kind of inconsistent. Why do they keep grabbing from underneath?
Even the way he goes down the stairs is stoic.
It's a typically horror movie thing where you show the monster a bit to highlight raise tension.
Something that Spielberg circumvented in 1993 with Jurassic Park.
Yeah, basically. See, two things. One, like Jay was saying, that's the most popular plot hole that people like to meme about this movie. These aliens have the technology to navigate through space, but they can't figure out how to get through wooden doors. Are you serious?
What was that slow-mo, actually?
I guess that was to make it seem like an epic moment.
How exactly did these aliens even How exactly did these aliens even manage to build spacecraft to begin with?
Like I said, again, given the assumption that this is supposed to be a scouting team, as in not very well armed, they're just to collect info or planting the seeds for an invasion, it just still feels very odd. And to also mention something that Liz was foreshadowing, it technically isn't really the most popular, thing that people criticize the movie for, but I'll have to get it when it actually becomes relevant.
Question, is it absolutely confirmed that this is just a scouting team, or is that like a speculation?
Again, it's basically speculation based on their behavior, the way humans interacted with them, and how they will actually, behave towards now the end of the movie, in the climax and everything, because, when you even compare to stuff like War of the Worlds, even the Spielberg version, technically, the alien in War of the Worlds, the Martians, technically speaking, were not particularly super strong or anything. They did not have a scouting team, but their technology actually made up for them, both in terms of the vaporizing ray, the cancellation of technology via EMP, and the grabbing, tentacles of the walkers, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
These particular aliens, on the other hand, seem to have a very limited kind of weaponry, and we don't even see one of their saucers. So again, the viewer is in the same, shoes of the characters, and as such, we do not have much of information, but we only base around what the movie tells us, and we will see more as the movie ends, because now we're increasing the climax.
Yeah, again, that's a thing I was going to say.
So-
We're in the climax, and I'll admit, it just feels like the movie just slips into the climax. Like, it's just, oh, here's a climax. Like, it doesn't feel like we're really prepped or geared to it, since, well, what the climax culminates in is a whole nother level of itself. But, oh, if I recall correctly, we're getting close to the twist, aren't we?
So
Mhm.
the
Because
first
of all
guy
the
was
stuff.
an alien.
Yeah, and because of all the stuff that me and Jay have been talking about, the climax falls flat because I have very a lot of trouble trying to really feel for these characters' safety.
See, part of the reason I'm not even sure if this is just like a scout team is like, we have to remember, it's M.Night Shyamalan at the helm. The guy loves to do things with an extra unique twist. Like, so for all we know, this was actually the main strike force of the aliens, but they're just that intimidating because nobody else has managed to figure out their weaknesses.
Well,
This
not
is actually-
really.
actually not a-
Boo.
Again, we will learn more about that later. That too.
That's actually another thing
Whoop.
that was starting to become a clear issue with Shyamalan, starting with this movie, and became even more obvious with the next one. His over-reliance on twists. Because this movie didn't really need a twist. Not really.
No.
I have no idea why the twist that we're about to see even happens. What is the purpose? How does it benefit the movie in any way? Exactly. It feels like it's just, because people praised the twists in Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, so he thought, okay, fine, I'll just do a twist in all of my movies, because clearly that's the secret to success.
So let me get
that
this.
kind was important.
So let me get this straight. You guys opted to stay. So your plan was, let's just turtle up and hide. And, well, what did you think the aliens were going to do? Come, steal your cows, and just go?
This is I find it more hilarious, but despite being a rural American house of the South, they don't have any firearm of any kind.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
I will also say this: the behavior of the child character, having asthma now is a bit more accurate, actually. So at the very least, there's that.
That said, plot stupidity, they left his medicine up and above.
His inhaler, yeah.
When the aliens...
Did you really just tell your asthmatic son to breathe like me?
Jay, I can tell you that the movie industry, I will be charitable and was going to say only what I say, the movie industry as a whole, doesn't know how asthma works.
Like, okay, some films do it better than others, but yeah, this is one of many, many ones that mischaracterizes it. Yes, Pedro?
When the fucking aliens from Earthworm Jim 2 are scarier than your aliens, you have a problem.
So we should defeat them by launching a cow?
Yes.
So, again, I ask, what even was your plan? Like, just hide? Like, you know that these aliens are apparently violent and stuff. Like, what did you think was gonna happen? I ask because it's a main impetus that they stayed at this house. I feel like that should have some good story structure to back it up.
I think the only reason they stayed is because this is the house that they grew up with their mother.
Yeah,
Or she
again,
passed.
it's the oldest Southern mentality of this is our property. No gosh darn it, alien is gonna
I love that
evict us, dagnabbit.
I love what Lucky Phoenix is saying now. Don't worry, we don't have to be afraid. Oh, for a moment I thought he was going to go into another stupid rant in After Earth about how fear is a choice. Yeah, fun fact, Jay, there's a plot monologue from Will Smith in After Earth where they try to say that fear is a choice, even though that doesn't make a sense.
The mantra from Dune did it better, and basically everyone has been trying to copy it to 4 degrees of success.
Oh.
Fear is the mind killer. Fear is a little death from which no escape can be had.
Oh,
Stuff
that
like that.
For the love of fear isn't the choice. Courage is.
This scene is
How
still...
do you get that so wrong?
This scene is still going. I get it. It's a
Yeah.
serious moment. The asthma, but can we
Like
just...
the movie gets it. This is probably the moment where the movie got more. There you go. Now we're pricing the flashback. Like he said, it feels weird that they had to segment it.
Oh.
Again, when the parody movie, Scary Movie 3, made the flashback basically just a single scene throughout and made more sense, you think that's kind of a problem.
So, okay. Obviously, this movie has been, reevaluated, and nowadays is seen as one of M. Night's lesser works, but I have to wonder, what was everyone, not just critics, but even audiences at the time, all seeing in this movie, aside from the fact that M. Night made it must be gold.
Back then, I genuinely did find this a scary movie to be had. But between the tension and the actual score, yeah, it was genuinely scary to me.
Okay, fair enough.
Really quickly.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Early on, when Mel Gibson's character Farmer Hess was sitting on the couch, he explained that his wife died from some form of nerve damage.
That is from the car
This woman
crash.
is dying because she is separated from upper and lower body by a truck and a tree.
Yes, sir.
That is not what he said earlier.
For the record, Scary Movie 3 made a parody specifically also of that concept.
Huh.
Again, I'll need to rewatch it at some point to see actually the parts that they was the worst. But again, I remember having good memories of the science parody.
One of the cops, while she just did a shrug shoulder thing. Like, what the hell was that? But
we're still getting cut away from the final revelation because we gotta drag this movie out as much as we can.
Okay, so they're not even here to conquer the land, but to adopt humans, apparently.
To harvest us.
But they're leaving.
Okay, I think the reason they're leaving is part of the twist, but...
And there's also the fact that, like I said, not just what... again, we're only going to the information that is related to us. It's strongly implied that the aliens were not expecting a kind of resistance, from the humans. Basically, an inversion of the super aliens that conquer us in 9 minutes from Battlefield Earth. These aliens sucked enough to be repelled, basically.
Also, for another note, apparently there is a little excerpt about aliens poisoning a bunch of people.
Yeah, they do seem to possess poison gas of some kind.
Yeah, they've left poison gas on the earth and they're gassing everybody to death.
I can't wait for the part where Morgan got grabbed and he was supposed to be poisoned, but he had an asthma attack, so his lungs were constricted.
Jay, why would you think that?
It's just moronic.
Well, moronic and M. Night Shyamalan tend to
No, don't I was joking!
Oh, now Jay is having a Dwebs moment. What is it, Jay?
Well,
something
considering
that you mentioned, we will see. Don't worry, the movie is technically almost over. We will see soon enough. Go on, Pedro.
Oh, God.
It's usually Dwebs who has the I was joking moments. But, okay. See, this is just moronic. Why would you go out of your way to make the main threat of your plot incompetent? If you do that, there's no tension. So why the fuck am I even watching this?
Well, it's technically a threat to these characters. Like I said, I get the idea behind this, that how this affects, something that is not technically the most common thing that would be showcased during an alien invasion. Again, it's a bit similar to what World of Wars have by starring, a middleman. The point is that in World of Wars is more the journey that this random guy goes throughout the entire country, seeing stuff like cities and everything. In here, it's basically about this very small family and community, about having to trench out and not knowing what kind of thing they had to deal with. It's not too different from, on concept, mind you, not necessarily on level of threat, but it's not too different from, say, the thing from another world.
See, the thing is, when it comes to the whole stupidity, with the whole, you don't have to be afraid, or fear is a choice thing. See, if I put a fucking tiger in front of Teo, he's not going to go, should I be afraid of this tiger? No, he's just going to be afraid because that's a natural human reaction.
I mean, I would. Yeah, it would probably be more effective if it's a wolf.
Sure, replace tiger with wolf. You know what my point is.
Yes, I know.
There is natural courage as the choice.
So I'm guessing you'd sooner make nice with a tiger, Tio.
Yes, I already told you, Drova. Gmork really did something to me.
Fair enough. At least it didn't do to you what Nala did to a lot of viewers back in the 90s.
Look at it this way. Look at it this way, Drova. It makes actually Puss in Boots: The Last Wish more powerful, actually, by proxy.
Definitely. Yep. Okay, so can we finally get this climax on with people? So, yeah, when you get down to it, the climax is technically us dealing with the after effects of an alien invasion gone terribly wrong because the aliens are just that incompetent.
Also, Jay, can you believe me if I say that compared to this, the climax even happening somehow manages to be even less?
Yes.
That's saying something.
Like, that's the thing. Imagine if, for Independence Day, the actual climax takes place after the mothership has been blown up. We don't even get to see the mothership blow up. Also, nice dance there, little girl. And, but yeah, imagine if Independence Day, the climax is actually just like us running away from one alien after the mothership is blown up off screen. Riveting.
See, that's the thing. There's also the thing, Drova. It also depends, obviously, on the threat. Remember, in the first Ridley Scott's Alien, there's only technically, at least for the most of the movie, one xenomorph. And only later they actually start happening more. Oops. Someone is left.
Was he just waiting there for them to have that reaction?
Yes. Well, again, these alien doesn't speak. I don't think this invention actually was in. It's a CGI effect, but I'm pretty sure it was mocapped in some kind of degree. So let me see if it's mentioned who he. But the alien is essentially communicating to them that the son is an hostage and wants to get away.
As for why he didn't just run while he could, and yes, it turns out it's the alien whose fingers he took.
So it's personal, of course. But how did he get away from the basement? I don't know.
So I guess the alien wanted revenge, and he's like, I got your son now. Come here and let me kill you, or he gets the gas.
Oh my god, I was fucking joking.
Do something.
Again, Jay, like I told you, the movie industry doesn't know what asthma is outside of a quirky plot point.
Okay, to be fair, if I recall correctly, it's more so the poison that's going to affect this.
Remember what Jova told about the wife being potentially psychic? This is what it's culminating to.
Yep. Now, believe it or not, the wife being psychic was not something caused by aliens or something. No.
Again, we have to use Stephen King logic and just assume that she is.
Yeah, no, she just happened to be psychic, so she told her husband a set of instructions.
I think I mentioned in the past, but the reason why I'm more acceptable of, random character psyche for Stephen King stories is that it's literally one of these major cliches, something that you have to expect, and these stories dwell with the supernatural almost all the time. So I'm not particularly broken when that happens, but for the purpose of this story, it just feels weird that the wife had this recognition. Mind you, there is an interpretation that rather than just being psychic, these words of encouragement the wife are about to say, like right about now, is that it's more of a metaphor that Mel Gibson is interpreting in another way, and they don't necessarily have to mean entirely what's going to happen,
except for the fact that all three steps work exactly, including that one.
It tries to do the whole God works in mysterious way, even if it's not super directly to you.
She's going away.
again, she's doing the cliche that Kung Pao made fun of, like of course you don't, Mel. I'm speaking in vague terms. That's kind of the point, so that later in the movie you'll go, oh, so that's what she meant. Swing away.
Well, okay. So yes, the twist, shall we?
Oh, not yet. He hasn't been showed up yet.
Right.
That's another movie I had to show you.
Okay.
Jay Kung Pao.
There is this, however, yes. Again, the wife told to swing away, and Mel Gibson is interpreting this with Joaquin Phoenix's character, get the bat, and starts giving some southern hospitality to the alien.
So let me get this straight. The solution was just to beat the shit out of the alien.
No. Pedro, I prefer the clip from DBZ Bridge. I figure it out. We just need to hit them really, really hard.
Yeah, that's really what this is. I mean, did you really need a prediction from your wife to figure this out?
Guess. Bonk. Insert your tier 2 scouts noises here.
Oh, about the swing away bit.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of assume when he got grabbed a little in the other scene, that was when he got sprayed with water. Now you're telling me they just...
Please, Jay. For exposure directly to water cause the skin to react like it's actually a burn. Kind of like it's supposed to be made of acid.
I just put something else together.
To me, this is basically the equivalent of the Eagle were flying the Fellowship to... Why didn't the Eagle fly the Fellowship to Mordor kind of theory? Yes, it is very bizarre that these aliens might be actually this kind of weak to water, but you have to remember, like we also mentioned previously, there's technically water in the air via humidity, so if the aliens were completely allergic to water this kind of way, they would have a problem by, just standing around.
Oh, so no! Water!
They came to a planet that is actively shown to be green and blue, with a severe weakness to water.
Yeah.
Directly.
Tried raiding and ran away.
Yeah,
it rained somewhere, and they realized very quickly that they were fucked.
Yeah, I was going to say, if this was set in the UK, this movie would be over in a minute.
Yeah.
Actually, Dwebs, you didn't even need that because, like Theo just explained, there's water in the air everywhere.
Yeah, I said that earlier.
Well, that was my point. The alien was not reacting to the fact that there was water in the air. So again, the movie wants to showcase that it's just direct water and everything. So while I get it that it's weird, they will not have any protective kind of gear potentially which is supposed to be more of an appearance similar to, say, the Greys from the 50s mythos more than anything. So back when aliens were going around naked, I guess. It is weird that it will not have protective equipment. But just this kind of weakness to water feels... What's with the slow-mo? Just doesn't feel that much of a problem to me. Something relatively natural that will happen, alien species and everything. I mean, it's this 2002, the same year, an actual alien invasion movie came around called Evolution, in which the alien turned out to weak to anti-dandruff shampoo, believe it or not, because it contains selenium. So it's not, again... I get the idea that was the thing that got, a bit over-criticized of the movie. Sure, it could have been presented in a potential better way. The whole foreshadowing about the girl leaving glasses of water in the house was way too much on the nose, in true Shyamalan fashion. But the aliens being weak to water is just a thing. I don't really think it's that kind of big of a deal.
The problem is that they don't explain how exactly. Okay, is it just direct contact with liquid water?
Seems to be.
Well, that's the thing. The movie doesn't explain, therefore I can assume a lot of things. That's the thing. It's just one of those things where, okay, this twist, here's the first thing you should write off. This stupid twist. Don't have the whole water twist. All it does is damage the movie by making it sillier. Like this twist didn't need to be in this movie. It didn't need just have Joaquin Phoenix beat the shit out of the alien with the bat. That would make more sense.
I honestly wonder if he included this twist just because at this point twists were like part of his quote or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said before. I really get the feeling because of his praise, the praise he got for the twists in his previous two movies, he thought that okay, so I guess the key to critical success is by having twists in every movie.
Okay, I have to wonder though, like for whatever reason, people still loved the heck out of this movie. So why was The Village finally the breaking point if this wasn't?
I don't remember if I even saw it, but it's on my list. We have to do a generation of that at some point too.
Because the
and yeah, it just ends like this.
He's got his faith back.
Yes, he got his faith back, but there is literally no epilogue.
You're saying, Pedro?
Because the twist in The Village is arguably even worse.
Like easily worse.
It basically turns what could have just been a basic thriller into a preachy movie about the modern ways of life and shit like that. Criticizing modern ways of life and shit like that, basically.
All right, there is no post-credit scene, so Mel Gibson will not be invited to the Kingdom Hearts initiative.
Yes.
Jay, since you're technically the major newcomer who hasn't seen this movie yet, please tell us what you think.
This movie is the equivalent of sepia tone used in 2006 films. It's a giant brown mess. The entire time, maybe partly because half the time we were talking all the way through it, there's a lot of this movie that you just sit there like, what the fuck is happening? A lot of it is very poorly explained. You are not attached to the characters at any point in time. And the girl having an issue with water turns to be the Chekhov's gun in this movie. And that's just weird. There is nothing about this movie that is coherent. How in the hell did he coast off of this movie? Because it's just... No. This movie is just bad.
Like I said, Jay, it was a combination of his name still meant something to a lot of people, meaning, immediate going to see the movie. And the concept, this particular sci-fi concept is something that actually a lot of people were interested to see being done.
Oh, I think I was half right where I said earlier that this was a couple of years after the Y2K scare. I think this is just one of the movies that was coasting off of a really large tragedy that just so happened to happen a little while beforehand. And it was just there when people needed it. They needed something really stupid to just help them. And I think now that we are well past what happened the year before, people are coming to this movie and realizing, oh, this movie isn't good.
Oh, wait, Jay, you're telling that this is supposed to be an allegory for terrorism?
No, yeah, kind of.
Huh.
Okay, with that realization in mind, I guess helpful for when people needed something, but all around, this is just not a movie you are getting high and enjoying. This is a movie you look at it and go, oh, nice to see you. Yeah, I guess take a seat at the family function. But you don't acknowledge its existence.
Hell, arguably, when it comes to bad M.Night Shyamalan films, Village and Lady in the Water are much more enjoyable to tear a new one, at least for me.
Yeah, this movie is just nothing. This movie is a collection of things happening at the same time, and no payoff beyond it. But I guess it's not The Last Airbender.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
And that's all I gotta say on the matter.
Leaves, do you remember what were your thoughts on the first time you watched it? Although I can have a guess they were pretty much the same, but please tell us.
I didn't like it back then, and I don't like it now.
Remind me again. I don't remember if you mentioned what is your worst M. Night Shyamalan movie. All right, you told us old. Okay.
Old.
It's
old. Yeah.
Right.
It says some people there's a movie actually worse than The Last Airbender. That's a miracle. But yeah, on the subject of this film,
Hmm.
Honestly, I think this film is just really, really boring. Aside from when, aside from Joaquin Phoenix, who I think gives the best performance out of anybody in the movie, everyone else is on Quaaludes or horse tranquilizers, what the guy said earlier. Like Mel Gibson, the kind of performance. Okay, actors are meant to be really versatile. They can. Okay, they have a certain set range of roles, and I don't see why Mel Gibson couldn't have pulled off the grieving priest here. He just didn't. Probably because of the combination of the script, Shyamalan's directing, and well, well, Gibson.
Yeah.
Something like Gibson to me was like his expressions were there, but his voice wasn't up. Also, man, Shyamalan. It's like when it comes to casting young child actors, Shyamalan really lucked out with The Sixth Sense. But in
On
Signs,
honestly, I get the feeling that with stuff like Signs, The Happening, and especially Last Airbender, that M.Night Shyamalan was trying to recapture the glory he did working with child actors as he did in Sixth Sense.
well, yeah, well, unfortunately, he didn't. Yeah, the kids here are about okay. Well, to be fair, they're not any. They're at least on par with the main lead, so they could be just as wooden as each other.
Hmm.
Honestly, I think even by 2002 standards, the CGI for the aliens is really poor.
Yeah.
Like seriously, they look like they came from a PS2 game that came out 2 years before.
I mean, to be
Except,
fair, this
I
is
mean, I mean,
2002,
I
so
would actually no. I would say that, but I've played PS2 launch titles. I've played SSX, and they look better than this. The music is it's like a lot of bad Shyamalan movies. James Newton Howard is practically doing the acting for everybody. As in, the music sounds more desperate and panicking at the situation than most of the actors in the movie. Shyamalan's cameo, it's not good, but I mean, it's better than one Lady in the Water. Like, I know that's not saying much, but still.
yeah.
And yeah, honestly, this is one of those movies where, aside from the swishing camera back and forth between Phoenix and the police officer, who just kind of vanishes from the movie, by the way.
Shoot, even
Um,
the police officer kind of disappears from the movie despite being hinted at being something of a
She's
supporting
only
character.
relevant for the flashback, basically.
Plus, she's a police officer. I think she'd have a bit of a stake in this. Um,
She also shows up a bit in the modern scenes as well. Like, she was the closest thing we had to a secondary character aside from the family.
Yeah. Aside
Honestly,
from the scene where they go to the town.
the Shyamalan-isms, honestly, I didn't really notice much aside from that.
Speaking of Shyamalan-isms, what about the man himself?
Yeah, I think this is around the point where he was really starting to believe in his own hype and was like, I can make any trick and people will still love me for it.
The thing was, he probably saw it as art, hence why he cast himself as such a pivotal character.
Yeah, I'm really mixed at when directors cast themselves in movies when they aren't primarily actors. As like I said earlier, I don't think Quentin Tarantino is the best at it in the world either.
I feel like he did fine in...
He's better than Shyamalan, but that's not saying
It's
much.
one of the reasons why Hitchcock cameos tended to be usually background elements, because the guy was not particularly much of an actor.
I think the best case I've seen of a director starring in his own movies is Mel Brooks.
Wait, isn't Mel Brooks also mainly an actor? I meant like people who aren't primarily actors.
Well, okay, how about Peter Jackson for The Lord of the Rings, I guess.
I
I mean,
can
the most he did was chew on a carrot.
Here's
Also,
the most classic example: Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, there's two. Basically, if you don't remember, it's the role that you mentioned is for the first movie. For the second, he's a soldier that is punting the gate at Helm's Deep in Rohan. And for the third movie, is one of the pirates doing the extended cut that gets killed by Legolas.
But yeah, that's it.
All right, Java.
Signs. again, trajectory-wise, it is definitely a turning point of Shyamalan. Now, granted, it had a delayed reaction, seeing as how, again, when it first came out, people loved it. Granted, if Jay's theory on this being an allegory for terrorism is a thing, and given this was 2002, probably even still not a full year after 9/11, I could see that being a reason for all the hype and praise, though I'll be honest, I don't recall any real marketing suggesting that this was an allegory for that. Like, if people perceived it that way, good for them. I'm sorry. Like, and you know what? It's not one of those big macho action films, but in that regard, I don't really see the mass appeal. I guess the idea is that the average Joe wouldn't be able to do much against a terrorist since, obviously dangerous and all that. And I guess this is the equivalent of a family fighting back against a terrorist, if that's the case. Look, whether or not that is the case, I don't think this movie holds up well. I'm sorry, I've seen better allegories for terrorism. Heck, I've seen better, movies against terrorism in general. Yes, even the ones that are blatant. Heck, South Park, which has the subtlety of a brick crashing through a window, did it better. As did the Team America World Police movie. Same makers, but you get the point, though.
Yeah.
It's like, this movie, honestly, part of me feels like this movie doesn't even know what it's really doing. Like, the plot feels aimless. The characters, for the most part, go nowhere. The most we get is finally culminating with the dad realizing, oh, so that's what my wife meant with those three incredibly random things she was saying before her death. Never mind the fact that she didn't think to tell me this before she died. And hold on, if she was a psychic, shouldn't she have known that she might have crashed?
And why didn't she actually be more specific and say, by the way, aliens are coming and they're weak to wood and water. Bye.
Like hell, she even drew a picture of them with the house burning and the family dying. She couldn't have just been specific and said, honey, aliens are going to come. You may not believe me now, but trust me, when you start to see the signs, here's what to do. Like, even if her rationale was, they won't believe you at that time, tell them ahead of time, and given that his memory is that good, surely he would remember all she said. Although that kind of begs the question why he didn't immediately think to the advice she gave, but I guess that advice was surfacing that very specific scenario where the alien is holding their son captive hostage and gasses him, but don't worry, his asthma saves him from being poisoned because it closes his lungs.
How
Brilliant.
convenient.
Yeah, convenience is the special of the day with that one. And speaking of convenience, ain't it convenient that the guy who ran over his wife also happens to be keeping the alien who, I guess, ends up being the main antagonist of this plot? Oh, what a very nice coincidence indeed. And I guess I could talk about other aspects, but there's not much. Like, the town they go to, only seen in one scene. There's some of these quirky characters, and they matter even less than the characters in Lady in the Water did. Like, holy cow, when your characters have less material than, well, okay, maybe less or more in some regards. I guess, to be fair, they're obviously not meant to be the main characters, so points to signs in that favor, because it is weird. Lady in the Water is more enjoyable to watch as a bad movie, but also, it's arguably worse because that's M.Night Shyamalan at his most ego-filled. But we do see the precursor of him cameoing in his own movie being, as Jay mentioned, the impetus that pretty much gets the plot going. Since, again, he's the one who causes the wife's death, which more or less causes the chain of reactions. I hope they're not implying that the wife had to die in order for her to get these visions and finally tell her husband.
That's the thing, Jova. It seems to be, like I said, what they're trying to come across. That again, we did not knew about anything about her, and the only importance that she has in order for the plot is to give this vital information, and emotionally destabilize the family, so that when this alien invasion happens, they can find unity once again. It just feels wrong when you really think about it.
Imagine writing a specific power set. This character can tell the future, but only when she dies.
Jova,
Yes.
you know what you're referencing, right?
Yes.
Oh my god.
So, did Toriyama have a look at this movie back when it was big and think, hey, you know what? There's an idea here. I mean,
God.
it really is amazing how bad media tends to share aspects, but I digress. James Newton Howard is trying his darndest, as he usually does with M. Night Shyamalan films. Like, arguably, like Dwib said, sometimes the score is to do the acting for the characters, and that's when it's not being subdued. Admittedly, for the most part, the score works, so that's the one thing I'll say was not bad. But the characters and the actors, again, I think it's a mixture of M. Night Shyamalan's directing plus the writing, because this script is not doing anyone favors. And I'll be honest, Mel Gibson is, whether or not he was in or out of his element, he kind of seems bored himself with the plot here. And again, maybe this ties into Pedro's point that apparently at the time Mel Gibson was much more an action star. Now granted, I can get maybe he wanted to break the mold, or he was excited to work with M. Night Shyamalan, again, Steven Spielberg too at the time.
Not necessarily an action actor, more so like intense roles. That's what I meant. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be action, but yeah, roles where he has to act intense.
I mean, I guess he sort of has to act intense in some parts of this movie, so by intense, I thought you meant like action sequence-heavy movies.
He does, but for the most part in this movie, like you already said, he acts completely subdued. And like I said, Bruce Willis is better at this kind of thing.
Which is funny, because Bruce Willis was also a guy who had several different eras. He had the comedian era, then the action star era, and then I think the more subdued era. So, again,
overall is a more versatile actor than Mel Gibson, in my opinion.
Regardless of that, I do attribute a lot of it to M. Night Shyamalan not being the best director when it comes to directing people. Again, he got... Again, his style worked for Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, but in Signs, it shows, once again, one of M. Night Shyamalan's biggest problems. He cannot seem to write or direct realistic actions in people to save his life. Now, I get it, the family is grieving, but the way they go through the grieving is weird. 1 minute they'll be happy-go-lucky, the other, it's this or that suspense, and again, special mention goes to the boy saying, "Mom died because of you, Dad," out of nowhere. Nothing to suggest that the son has blamed the father for the mom's death, and it's near the climax. Holy Christ, it is just so bad and herky-jerky, and honestly, I don't think even, the greatest actors of all time could have made this movie work with that script and direction. I feel like they didn't have a shot. But I guess the thing to consider is, back when this movie came out, I guess all this stuff was praised, because as far as I can see, reception was good overall, it made the money. It wasn't until Village where finally people said, this sucks. But man, in hindsight, now actually looking back at this, I really can say that Signs was the sign. If it wasn't the crack showing, it was definitely the writing on the wall that if Shyamalan didn't shape up, things were gonna go downhill for him, and well, you all know what happened after that.
Mm-hmm.
Tio or Pedro? Pedro.
Next.
First off, what the Portuguese kids were saying was this. One of them said, "Oh my God," and when the answer was up, they were saying, "It's behind the garage. It's behind the garage." There you go. As for this movie, yeah, like I've already been explaining, this movie feels undercooked because it feels like there's a lot of story that it's missing to me. Like, shouldn't I be getting more insight into these characters' lives of this oh so important mother that died, so I can properly empathize with their loss? Because it for a character that is so crucial to the whole story, she sure doesn't get elaborated upon much, you know. And
But
it's one of the
Pedro,
problems.
just swing
Yes.
away.
Yeah, just swing away. Yeah, Mom, you could have been a bit more specific. You know, that would have probably helped.
I thought I would tell you
Um,
in this way because it would make it seem more artistic and poetic.
Yeah, Kung Pao. Yeah, like I saw Kung Pao. In fact, Kung Pao came out in 2002, I think, as well. Kung Pao, in the same year that this game came out, was making fun of this cliche.
Technically speaking, also a Disney movie now.
Huh. Wow. Oh wait, is that also on Disney Plus?
No.
It's a Fox movie. So, but yeah,
Though it's not on the streaming services right now.
Remember, there's a lot of sex gags and stuff like that. So probably would be like on Hulu or something.
I don't know. Like technically, you can watch.
For Europe, it's not even on the Star program, where it's usually the mature movies are put. Again, it's a bit similar, I guess, to Freddy Got Fingered. It might be a case where the Disney doesn't even know they own this thing right now, and they're just scrounging eventually.
Mm-hmm.
The twist is just, look, it's one of those things where it's just like, yes, you can make an argument that, oh, don't you see, you're not getting it. It's only direct contact with the water in liquid form that gets them. Okay, but why is it only that? Because I'm by no means a chemist, but I'm pretty sure the chemical composition of water is the same, whether it's liquid, whether it's a gas. You know,
it's more like the concentration, Pedro, more than anything. It's kind of a bit similar how, toxicity material in the air, even if it's in that kind of small quantity, is not dangerous to us, but it can be highly concentrated.
But even without that, even if the twist made sense, it doesn't benefit this movie in the slightest. It helps them kill the alien at the end, but couldn't you just as easily just have Joaquin Phoenix beat the shit out of his head and, to the point where his head blows up from the bat? It wouldn't even be that out of place. Like, the water just feels unnecessary.
Well,
Why?
Pedro, but beating his head into a pulp would be too much for the PG-13 rating.
Fine, do it off screen then. Do it. You can have it so that we only see the alien from the shoulders down or something. There are plenty of ways you can censor that. My point is that there's no. It's like I've said before. This movie doesn't need a twist. It doesn't, and the twist does nothing. It doesn't benefit the story in any way. It doesn't recontextualize anything. It doesn't add anything to the overall narrative. It's just a twist for the sake of having a twist.
Like I said, I wonder if he legit put this in because he had his own quota at this point.
I mean, when you get down to it, it might feel like a last-minute addition.
It does. That's what it feels like. This twist, not only does not benefit the movie in any way, it only detracts from it, because at best it makes it come across as careless and lacking in thinking, and at worst makes it seem completely stupid and moronic because of how it makes little sense for these aliens to even be able to enter this planet's atmosphere. That's the thing. Like I have no idea what the hell was the thought process behind, because usually with Shyamalan's twists, usually at the very least, there's, even if they're stupid, there's at the very least some kind of a reason. Even in Glass, right? Even in Glass, the twist of Glass Even though it's terrible, I can understand what the point is. It's for Shyamalan to preach to in universe about how superheroes suck, and second, on a meta level, once again complaining about how the world hates him and is censoring his art. So, at least something with a lemon in the water. I understand the point. It's for Shyamalan to talk about how nobody gets him. It's stupid, but at least I understand what the point is. What is the point of this twist exactly? What does it say? It doesn't say anything. It just feels like he got to the end of the movie and he figured out, oh wait, right, people are expecting me to have a twist in my movies, aren't they?
If I had to stretch, it might be also religious symbolism, exorcising a demon with holy water, maybe. But that's me just guessing.
I guess, but at the same time, the movie at no point does draw any kind of parallel between aliens and demons. So that's just, a stretch at best.
I think the main issue is that when you get down to it, aliens being vulnerable to wood and water feels like the joke in either a Robot Chicken sketch or the equivalent of a Family Guy cutaway gag. That is the culmination of a movie we're supposed to take seriously, though.
Like I said, Java, you haven't seen probably the movie I was referring to before, Evolution. While that one, has a more comedic tone, the idea of the aliens being weak specifically to selenium, and as such, the high concentration in anti-dandruff shampoo, is supposed something that, while taken even in universe as something bizarre, it's something that actually is taken seriously because it actually it works out. It's not treated as a joke, for the sake of it.
I think it helps because
the idea of an alien species that has a complete unique weak element, that might seem bizarre to us, but it's completely normal to them as a sort of a inverting laws of physics towards someone from an alien planet. It's actually more common than you think in sci-fi.
I think the issue is Shyamalan chose, as the writer, to make it one of the most common elements on the planet. Like, at least with the shampoo thing you described, that sounds like something that would at least be more specific, something that needs to be found out. Whereas water,
honestly, Java, like I said before, and also to Pedro, the real problem in this was the weird part of the aliens not having protective gear, because ideally they shouldn't expect something like this to happen.
Oh my god. You know what this means, right? Battleship actually did this plot point better, since the aliens actually thought, hey, the atmosphere won't work for us, let's wear suits.
That's the basic thing with the twist. The twist is just... The only way this twist can work is if it turns out that this takes place in the Wizard of Oz universe, and turns out the Wicked Witch of the West happens to be an alien from this planet. Right? That's the only way this twist can even remotely be a good thing.
Okay, I'll admit that would kind of be an interesting take, that the witches are actually aliens and masquerading as humans.
The witch is green, and these aliens are also green, so...
I guess that's what the female aliens look like.
This one did not have a nose to begin with, but her nose was very pointy.
Maybe maybe the Witch of the West happens to be a particularly pretty alien.
Well, like I said, she's what the female aliens from that species look like.
I guess. But it's not just that. The big problem is that the movie just feels undercooked. Like, there's so much... It feels like there's story missing. It feels like there's context missing. The acting is subdued and as a result, it sucks the energy out of the movie again, unlike the previous movies, not really with a justification. A lot of times the characters act in ways that don't feel real, and again, the fact that there's no context to possibly justify this makes it a problem. Combined with the fact that the direction can be pretty awkward, the dialogue can get awkward at points. It just feels like an undercooked story. Like, I can see a good movie in here, but it needs more. This movie feels like chunks were taken out of it. That's how it feels like. It feels undercooked to me. It's not Shyamalan's worst, of course, like people have said, but definitely the one that showed signs that not all was well in paradise. Yes, I know what I said. That's the thing. It's there are if you want to watch a good alien invasion movie, there are plenty of movies from the 50s you can watch that are better. So I definitely recommend watching something else, not this. I can tell what Shyamalan is going for. He's trying to go for an old-fashioned alien invasion movie type of vibe, but the problem is, I feel like again, just feels incomplete. So yeah, not great, not at all. So no, it's still not good. No, it is not.
Alright.
As for why people praise it at the time, I have no. I really think that it was probably just one of those where people were still in the honeymoon phase regarding
It's
Shyamalan.
just to mention, currently on Rotten Tomatoes is having a 75% for official critics based on 240 reviews. But the audience score, which is 250,000 plus ratings, is 67%. So while obviously not basically sucking the movie's dick, it overall is a light shade of positivity. The only comments that I'm skimming through quickly, so obviously just a mere fraction, mostly mention about the cinematography and how it creates a sense of isolation, which I guess, but if I had to be honest, I'm not seeing anything particularly special.
No, me neither. I mean, when it comes to movies that can create a sense of isolation and stuff, you can watch plenty of better movies that do that. Indeed.
Is that it for your final thoughts, Pedro?
Basically, go ahead.
Go on, Tio.
All right, I'm going to conclude. Okay, I don't like this movie as much as I do for Lady in the Water when it comes to, Shyamalan, more bad kind of territory. But I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I still have to ponder what legitimately is his worst movie from the ones that I saw. I guess maybe Last Airbender when you get down to it, just for the idea of being such a terrible adaptation, I suppose.
It's pretty much widely agreed that Last Airbender is his worst, since not only was that
I still had to see Old to see especially what Leaves was talking about. So the card's still on the table for that.
Oh yeah,
the main reason he hates Old is because he has two children, age up instantly, and then have sex, basically.
So when it comes to this movie, I think the major problem that I found while watching it back, because it has been a while since I watched it even on my own, are mostly the pace. Like, I get it that he's still Shyamalan adhering to the same thought process that he had for Unbreakable and The Sixth Sense, but I do believe that at times the movie is way too slow for its own good. I think a couple of scenes could have been either trimmed or compressed into each other, having a dialogue a bit more speedy. Mostly this is because of the actor's delivery, is a bit too slow, for that matter. And maybe that would have been the excuse of adding a couple of those plot points that the rest of you have mentioned that would have helped. But again, as a story on a conceptual level, I technically don't mind it. Again, the idea of this alien invasion scene from the point of view of someone who is in a peripheral point that cannot really ask for help. The problem is that a lot of time is spent for the setting up, including some of the Chekhov's guns. And when the climax actually arrives, there isn't much that gets done. The characters just barricade the house, then enter the basement, don't do really that much, get out, discover that things have apparently gone, fine because the aliens have been scared shit by the military, then one last major alien remains, and Mel Gibson has his revelation about it. It's not much. And again, I get it that this is not supposed to be a pump-pack action movie, even if it might have been potentially more interested if he did, but that was the specific vision of a Shyamalan wanted to have. I get it. It's still a bit too slow for its own good with these kind of things, and probably should have. Yes.
I was going to say that reminds me of your bit here. Like, so how would you make this work as a world in Kingdom Hearts?
I got no fucking clue. Like you said, 1/3 in, I think. Because of this, there's nothing but sure limited locations. So there is technically a foundation on the level design, but there's nothing happens. Nothing really happens that merits. So it's more of a joke than anything that I say that would work. This is really just not because of this is not an action inherited action product, nor does it have anything particular like saying a sequence that would require puzzle solving or anything. No, this is not really working. Also, I would be very glad to not have Mel Gibson getting money for working for a product for children again. Thank you.
Yeah.
But out of the performances, Joaquin Phoenix is the one that stands out. Having seen stuff like Braveheart, yeah, Mel Gibson can do better. I always thought it was very intentional, this kind of monotone. Again, the idea behind it would have been the wife death has caused this kind of gray instability and depression, saturation of, negativity in the house, and that's why also the children are like that. Joaquin Phoenix seems to be a bit more the wild card because he's still young, wants to have the dream and everything. This is why in Scary Movie 3, the role of Joaquin Phoenix gets mixed up with the one of Eminem, and the stuff that he does is to have a rap battle at the beginning because ideally he's the one that wants to still do stuff and has more of a young mind compared to the other characters. Again, for all the stuff that I have not too much problem with the movie, I still would say that probably Movie 3 has a better idea of this concept.
And that's supposed to be a parody.
Which is supposed to be, it's probably sacrilegious, and again, I am very confident that between the two, that is the movie that has aged the worst compared to this. What I was getting back is that, so to a degree, I do understand the monotone, aura that the characters do possess. Much less so the officer. I do believe she should have been, not necessarily peppy, but a bit more active, to give a better contrast, to showcase, the difference between the lifestyle of that character and these ones, And again, there's the whole kind of words about the wife importance as a character in the story being useful only because she gets killed, which is just awful. The more you think about it, the worse it gets. Simple as that. I don't even know how it could have been worked better. It's just no, really. Honestly, the whole water, eating with the water, what I understand where Pedro is coming from, at worst, it's just there and raises maybe a few questions, but otherwise it technically doesn't, aside from the teacher or actual alien, doesn't technically harm being present there. The wife getting killed and having the psychic resonation, arguably it's on the same level, but it's also the extra bit of just wasting a character in this kind of way and giving away. Like on paper, the idea of Mel Gibson finding once again courage and faith and giving the intuition that Joaquin Phoenix character can swing the bat could have just come naturally without the psychic resonation that the wife had.
But then we wouldn't have a twist.
Well, the twist is more about the water than anything. Like I said, I always interpreted the idea of the words that the wife says not necessarily connected immediately, 100% directly to the event, but more in a case of, just the words to give courage, and Mel Gibson, caught the moment and understood that they were useful to indicate a situation at that time. More about coincidence. It's the whole theming about miracles and coincidences that the movie has been going for. So the thematics are technically also there when you get down to it. It's just a matter of, Shyamalan, as usual, potentially having his own ego, not on the same level of leading the water, but it's still there. Also, as Jay pointed out, his own cameo. Again, it's not as egregious as leading the waters, but it's still like a bit, not Gary Stewish, but a bit pretentious to be in such a relatively important role and being the ones that gives, important clues and, points a character to the right direction. A bit on the nose. Complete also with the scene where he's introduced, where the character just staring all from the stereotypical Italian pizzeria.
I argue. Sorry.
And again, yes, because it's important to the story. Of course, the character will react like that when looking at him, but without context, it really just looks like the character being in awe of the director descending on them.
I argue that the mom being able to tell the future is a twist, since it did get some foreshadowing with the picture in the book that the kids were reading, which shows a house on fire and the family.
Well, that was
dead.
from a different person. It wasn't from the wife, however.
I could have sworn it was insinuated that the mom drew that, but I may be misremembering.
Mel Gibson's character mentions, about Dr. Ivo, whatever he's called, the author of it. Anyway, where was I? Oh, speaking of which, again, as also Jay pointed out, Mel Gibson, I know that it's taking a minor thing, and it's not really particularly harmful, but Mel Gibson's character is never referred to by name.
That
it's
is
so weird. Like Pedro showed to me and Deji recently Tenet, in which the protagonist is literally named the protagonist. So it's not necessarily important that a story has a named character that is never addressed by said name in it, but it just feels odd. Like why it feels deliberate as a thing, and that begs the question: why would you do that? Because his brother has a name and gets told, same for the children and everything. Why not him? So what is the significance, of it? I just don't understand it. Maybe there is.
I don't know it at all.
I mean, maybe it's a representation of his loss of faith. Maybe he's losing his identity. But again, that's me just grasping at straws potentially. And again, it's taking a minor thing. That one really doesn't harm the movie or anything. It's just bizarre or anything. So the best thing that I can say at the end of this is that this movie is a mess. I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I don't think it's as awful as mentioned, but it still could have been so much better. And there are better Shyamalan movies that I will still watch over this, including Lady in the Water. I'm sorry.
No. I'll give you that. I personally think Lady in the Water is technically a worse movie, but only in the sense that M.Night Shyamalan was getting his ego more out of control.
Outside of the ego thing, Joe, I do believe Lady in the Water has more creativity put into it in terms of what kind of story he wants to tell and what characters are involved.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I will say this, again, I'll admit, for as ego-driven as he was, that's actually kind of the selling point of it for me. I would sooner rewatch Lady in the Water than I would Signs.
And before concluding, just to mention, because we were speculating before, apparently, guess what? When we're commenting this, the year of 2024, Shyamalan's next movie is not only a return, he's jumping ship again, but he's returning to Warner Bros. And it's a new original product, but it's not an adaptation of something. It's a movie. It's called Trap. I guess he learned a few things from Jordan Peele while he was at Universal. And it's slated to be released August this year. We only know that it stars Josh Hartnett and Salika Shyamalan, his daughter, I think. So we'll have to see how that turns out, I suppose.
I guess.
As for ourselves, there are still a couple of Shyamalan movies that do deserve the Generations treatment, but for the sake of scheduling conflicts and everything, you're not going to see them for a bit, unfortunately. So stay tuned for them in the future, I suppose. See ya.
Take care.